All right, we're starting right at the top of the hour. Good evening, everyone. This is Tech Thursdays, episode 136. So last week was Thanksgiving in the US, so there was no Tech Thursdays a week ago. And this week is probably going to be one of the shorter episodes. Now, I know that whenever I say that, it ends up becoming one of the longest episodes. But I actually do legitimately think that this is going to be one of the shorter episodes. There's not a whole lot to talk about. The Black Friday shopping season continues on. We're going to talk about Micron exiting consumer. You guys can tell in the title of the video. We're going to talk about GPU prices. They're going to go up. Basically, where we're at as an industry in terms of the PC DIY market. This is like a repeat of the end of 2020. If you guys remember anything about what it was like trying to build a computer in the pandemic years. So we're kind of back to that, unfortunately. So back then, if you recall, there were significant challenges trying to get GPUs, video game consoles, basically a whole bunch of things that were related to compute power. There was an issue with supply early on. It kind of created a ripple effect that caused scalpers to enter the market and buy up all the GPUs, and then things like Newegg Shuffle started getting created and anti-scalper bot measures were taken on a lot of websites. You guys who lived through that era know exactly what that's like. We're not really going back to that extreme in terms of product availability, but what we are going to see a repeat of is the prices. So the prices of electronics for consumers, especially those who like to build their own devices, like those who like to build their own gaming computers, for example, are going to go up in price. RAM prices are already way up. The GPU prices are also going to start trending up. Basically, any device that has memory chips inside of it to operate. So think of graphics cards. Graphics cards have video memory. Video memory is just another form of DRAM chips. Those are going to go up in price. Now, right now, if you're in the market for a GPU, you might want to get one this holiday season because the time to buy one is literally right now and no later than right now, because January, February, March, the prices are going to scale upwards. Everything's going to trend upwards. We're going to talk about CPUs. We're going to talk about roadmap. For those of you that are thinking, well, you know, I'm just going to skip. I'm not going to upgrade because I don't want to pay these ridiculous prices. Well, we're going to talk about how long you're going to have to wait if you decide to upgrade, because there are some interesting projections from companies like Micron and SK Hynix and Samsung on how long this, I guess, issue with memory supply is going to remain. So, with that said, that's all we're really going to talk about on this episode of Tech Thursday. I mean, it's all going to be about DRAM, GPUs, price increases, and we will talk about roadmap, because people always like to talk about roadmap, even though this YouTube channel is not a channel that covers leaks. You guys, if you guys have been watching my streams in the past, whenever we talk about roadmap, we always base the predictions off of logical pattern recognition, how companies operate, especially if they're publicly traded companies that create electronic devices, companies like NVIDIA, AMD, etc. We can predict with high degree of accuracy when their products will launch. I've been saying this for the last, basically since we've been doing Tech Thursdays, and I've been pretty much right on the money every single time. So that's also true for video game consoles. We'll talk about that too later in the stream. So that being said, the first article here that I want to talk about is this DRAM thing about Micron. So Micron is abandoning consumer SSDs and RAM. So for those that are unaware of what that means the Crucial brand. So Micron is a company that makes DRAM chips and NAND flash memory. So let's bring up Paint here. Everyone's favorite. Let me make sure I have it open. Okay, I do have it open. So Micron is a company. Micron has the professional, we'll call this business to business entity, and then they have the consumer. Or actually, let me make this even easier. They have the business or the enterprise sales side, and then they have the consumer sales side. Now, these have different entity names. We'll just call this one B2B, business to business. That's that one. And then the consumer one, you may have heard of this one. It's called Crucial. This is the brand name, Crucial. Now, Micron is exiting the consumer market, which means the Crucial brand is going to go away. So for those of you who are familiar with Crucial, they make things like the T705. I have the T700. This is their very first Gen 5 SSD. So we are actually using that in this computer right now to do the live stream. So the Crucial T700 Pro, this is a 2 terabyte Gen 5 SSD from Micron. Now, Micron had some of the best deals this past holiday.
Have you heard the news about Samsung RAM department refusing to supply RAM to Samsung?
Yes. We're going to talk about Samsung. Good thing you brought that up. That's kind of like a teaser of what we're going to talk about when we talk about the other companies. So, a lot of the average consumer out there has no idea the depth of what is going on with the memory suppliers. There are the companies that create the memory chips that are now subdivision entities from these three big companies. Micron is one of them. Samsung is another one. So it's good that you brought that up because I was mostly going to talk about SK Hynix, but we will also talk about Samsung because you mentioned them. I was going to mention them briefly, but Samsung, Hynix, and Micron are the three. I guess how to say this. They're basically the arms dealer in the AI race. They've become that now because, first of all, there are a couple of bottlenecks in the AI market. So, like, let's look at the AI. All of this is related to AI, by the way, guys. It's all because of AI. AI is the source of all the issues that the gamers are going to face all throughout the next 2 years. So prepare for the long winter. Prepare for the next 24 months. 24 months or more of the long drought. It's coming. We've already lived through this once. It was 2021 it was like end of 2020, all of 2021, and the first half of 2022. We all remember this. We all remember. Who here remembers $900 RTX 3060 Ti or $2,000 RTX 3080? We all remember this. Or $1,500 RX 6800 XT. We all lived through that era. That was the era of what I call the dark times. So we are about to return. You think of Miller, if you've watched Interstellar, the movie Interstellar, the 2014 epic from Christopher Nolan. That movie, remember when they went to Miller's planet, also known as the Water Planet? Remember the waves, the gravitational waves that rotate along that planet? Because you have a planet, and then you have the gravitational waves. Do you guys remember this? Miller's planet, the wave would rotate around like this. It would basically be rotating around, and then you'd have these big, massive waves, these tidal waves. So think of it like, okay, this wave was the 2021. This is kind of like, this was the second half of 2020. This was 2021. This was the first half of 2022. Well, then we went to 2023, 2024. Last year was the best time to upgrade, by the way. 2025. Oh, here we go. 2026. 2027, it's going to get pretty bad. So, we're entering the wave. We're entering the wave. Pizza Planet from Toy Story. The analogies, man. It's all AI. Last time it was crypto. Crypto was what made gamers have all kinds of like suffering. That they suffered through this thanks to cryptocurrency and the pandemic and supply shortages and all of the above. Now you can thank AI for all of the above because AI is creating a problem, a shortage problem for the companies that produce the memory. So bottlenecks for AI. Number one bottleneck for AI, power. Power, electricity, natural gas, nuclear, all of the above, wind, renewals, everything. Power is the number one bottleneck for AI. Number two, DRAM. Memory is becoming the bottleneck number two. No one expected this one. This one just kind of like showed up out of nowhere. So the power constraint is still a thing. But the DRAM, okay, and another bottleneck related to this one is, I guess, power and water. I mean, water is another thing. You got to cool the data center. But anyway, DRAM is like a new bottleneck. So you got all these bottlenecks now with AI. So Micron, I don't know if this is a good decision on Micron's part. Basically, there is a lag time now, lead time for supply is over 24 months backlogged. So that means 2026, 2027. 24 months means 2 years. So we're entering that long winter of you're going to be stuck on whatever hardware you're going to have. That's what you get. Whatever hardware you have at this moment, unless you plan on updating your hardware literally this month, you're going to be stuck on whatever PC you're using. You are going to be like your computer is going to be frozen in time for the next 2 years. So this is interesting because we talk about upgrade cycles on this channel a lot because a lot of my audience are tech enthusiasts. They're people who either upgrade every generation or every other generation. And sometimes because the real upgrade, I mean, I tell you guys, you guys know, you guys who watch my channel, you guys know what I say. I operate on a 3-year. I tell consumers 5-year or 7-year. I do the 3-5-7. I operate 3-5-7. So you either keep your computer you either upgrade every 3 years or you upgrade every 5 years, which is half a decade. That's pretty long. Or you upgrade every 7 years. If you go, anyone who goes beyond 7 years, like whatever upgrade you choose at the time you do the upgrade, if you wait 7 years, it doesn't matter if you're buying current gen or you're gonna wait for like the next gen that's like a month or a couple of weeks after you upgrade. It doesn't matter. 7 years is so long that whatever you're getting, it's so much faster than your old computer that it's automatically worth the upgrade. So I do 3-5-7 is what I tell people. 3-5-7 is the typical life cycle. And I'm not making these numbers up. These numbers come from the companies. The manufacturers operate on these principles. And the average consumer, that's why when you go to a Micro Center or a Best Buy and they want to sell you their extended warranty, this is also true of the automotive world. If you have bought a car recently, you look at what they offer you when they're trying to sell you the add-ons like the extended warranties. So for consumer electronics, they like to sell you the 2-year or the 3-year. Oftentimes they try to sell you that 3-year replacement warranty because they're looking at this. Some companies will do 5-year if you're in like the EU or something. You know, in America, 5 is like the maximum. Like no company is gonna like want to warranty their product. We're talking like regular consumer appliances or consumer products here for 5 years. Now, if you have a big appliance like a washing machine or a refrigerator or something, then you might see the 7-year offer. But this is typically the consumer grade standard warranty lifetime. That is the reason why I tell people, like, if you upgrade, you're upgrading on a 3-year cycle, or you're on a 5-year cycle, or you're on a 7-year cycle. Rarely is it worth the time and effort and money to upgrade less than 3 years. The only people who upgrade less than 3 years are what I consider the true tech enthusiasts. They're the ones who are either upgrading every generation or every other generation. So they only skip like one generation. And just to be clear, a hardware generation is 2 years. 2 years. Every 2 years, there is a new hardware generation. This has been true for a very, very long time. You guys think about it. 2020 equals RTX 30. 2022 equals RTX 40. Let's go further back. 2018 equals RTX 20 series. 2016 equals GTX 10 series. So every generation is typically 2 years. 50 series was supposed to be 2024. But NVIDIA did what they did, and they delayed it by 1/4 into this year. So anyway, so basically, NVIDIA is going to realign. We'll talk about this later when we talk about roadmap. So there's going to be a realignment that's going to take place for the 60 series. And we'll talk about what that means when I say realignment. It means they're going to realign to the launch window of GTX 10 for the 10-year span. That's what they're going to do. So your prediction for 5080 was also wrong. My prediction for 5080 was not in regards to this. Okay. I had MSI Tomahawk B350 for 7 years. Now I have B650E, and it's night and day. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Like, if you wait that long, the longer you wait, the more you're going to get the value. You're going to extract the full value out of your hardware. Typically, after 5 years, though, you've already gotten the full value of your hardware at that point. So, hardware generation is 2 years. You can do this with CPUs. Ryzen 5000, 2020. Ryzen, what was it, 7000, 2022. Ryzen 9000, 2024. Ryzen, whatever they call it, 2026. So you can apply the same logic, and the reason why we can apply this logic with very, very high accuracy is because this is not just true of any tech company. Companies that sell/make products operate, why am I typing so poorly? Operate on a roadmap. This is the key word, roadmap. If you understand the roadmap, you don't need someone to tell you the product leaks. Now, you don't know exactly, like, I can't tell you the actual day that the product will launch, but I can tell you the range of when to expect the product. Because if you understand how a roadmap works, you can guess with very good accuracy when the products will launch. So, and it's pretty easy to look at it, right? You look at enough different things, you just look at releases of when things launch, and you can figure, oh, okay, they operate every 24 months, every 2 years roughly, there's a new CPU or a new GPU. It's usually in that window, if we're talking actual generational leap. So I'm not talking about the difference between an RTX 40 series versus an RTX 40 series Super. That's a refresh. That's not a generational leap. That's not an actual generational difference. So I'm not concerned with, 50 series launched whenever it launched. 50 Super series will launch whenever it launches. That's not going to be a 2-year window because that's not a generational leap. You see what I'm saying? We're talking about actual generation over generation launches. And we can apply this exact same logic to consoles. Now, Nintendo, we got to think about Nintendo for a second because that's the challenging one. Nintendo is the one that's weird. So we're not going to really count Nintendo because Nintendo does their own thing, and Nintendo has had missteps with things like the Wii U, where they had to kind of like scramble to save themselves from kind of a failed product launch, and that's how the Switch kind of came out early, but then the Switch 2 came out way later. So that's kind of an extreme scenario. But if you look at the consoles, like the Xbox consoles and the PlayStation consoles, since the PlayStation 3, they've operated at the upper end of this 357 rule. So you can expect a console generation every 7 years from the current generation console. So what does that mean? That means if you take, for example, PS5 equals 2020, November, and it's always November for Sony. So it's November 2020, and you apply the 7-year logic to it. PS6 will be November 2027. So it's it's pretty easy to make these predictions. It doesn't mean that I'm right 100% of the time. I'm not claiming that I'm always right. But what I'm telling you guys is I can make an educated guess based off of this logic, and I'm almost always like in the ballpark of when these things will launch. I'm not saying that it's absolute certain that it's going to launch, because things can happen. There could be like some crazy supply thing that messes up the lead times, it messes up the roadmap lead times. So stuff like that could always happen. But in general, you can apply this logic so that you can figure out, I'm thinking of upgrading my CPU. Should I wait or should I buy now? And you can figure, okay, well, when did the current CPU launch? How old is the current CPU on the market? Am I closer to the upgrade, the next gen, or am I still further away from the next gen? So you have to kind of make that call. Now, we're literally sort of like in the middle right now of the difference between a Zen 5 and a Zen 6 CPU. So you're literally like smack in the middle of like, if I wait for Zen 6, you're going to pretty much wait the same amount of time that Zen 5 has already currently been on the market, if that makes sense, because we're kind of like halfway through now, the Zen 5 generation. So that's how I've operated on these things. That's how I've been able to time my own upgrades. But this whole thing, going back to Micron now, Micron exiting the consumer market. So that means that the Crucial brand will cease to exist after Q1 of next year. So that means after March, you're not going to see much Crucial products anymore. Now, they've already killed off the brand internally, but they still have inventory that flows through the supply channel. So you're still going to be able to buy Crucial branded products, SSDs, memory, etc., for the next couple of months now through February. Now, they have stated, and I think that article also may have mentioned it. So let me go back here. So it may not mention it, but I know that they're going to keep on selling through February of next year. So maybe, okay, yeah, they do mention it here. Micron will continue Crucial consumer product shipments through the consumer channel until the end of fiscal Q2. So for them, that means February of next year. So that means there's 3 months left to buy Crucial branded products like a T710 or whatever. So I'll tell you guys, one of the best Black Friday deals that I was able to find from Micro Center was the Crucial 4 terabyte BX500. So I did get one of these from Micro Center because this was the only SSD that you could buy that was 4 terabyte and was under $200. This was like $194. $194 for 4 terabytes. Now, the only downside is it's a SATA-based SSD, so it's a slow SSD, but it's still an SSD, and it's under $200, and it's 4 terabytes. So my rule of thumb is I don't want to pay more than $50 per terabyte, and this was $48 per terabyte, roughly. So this was the best deal in terms of, like, I don't care how fast it is, I just want a bunch of flash storage. This was the one to get. And it was such a good deal that I bought it before Black Friday because I think I saw the deal show up on the micros. I mean, I think we showed it on stream when we were looking at Black Friday deals last week. And yeah, I saw the deal and we talked about it. And I was like, you know what? The next day, I literally went to Micro Center. I bought it because it's like, yeah, this is the one to get, especially because SSDs are going to go up in price. Good luck trying to find a 4 terabyte SSD for even close to $200 this month, or even, I don't know, like Q1 of next year. SSD prices are going up. Memory prices are already ridiculously overpriced. So if you can get something like a P310, if you can find a P310, Best Buy had the P310 on sale for like 200, I think it was like $229. You can get a 4 terabyte P310 for like $229, $230 at Best Buy. I'm pretty sure that Black Friday deal is also gone. But man, Crucial, these were the deals, guys. These were the deals. Speaking of Crucial exiting the market, Micron taking Crucial off the market, now is the time to like stock up on like clearance like Crucial products, man, because it's like this is the best deal right now. Like all the Samsung deals are not competitive. Samsung is way overpriced right now for SSDs. Like I'm not gonna touch Samsung because of how expensive they are right now. The time to buy Samsung is over. Like that was like September. That was September. That was the time to buy up those Samsung 990 Evo Plus drives. So now, dude, when I bought my Samsung 990 Evo Plus 4 terabyte, actually, let's go to Micro Center right now. Let's go look at these prices. Internal SSDs. Let's look at some deals. So this is the thing. This is what I do. I go down here. I immediately filter to 4 terabyte because I don't buy anything smaller than 4 terabyte. And this is the minimum I do. And then we go to lowest price. And right here, already the prices are going up. I paid $194 before Black Friday. It was literally like, I think I went in on the Sunday. I think it was on the 23rd or so. I went into Micro Center or what? No, it was like whenever we talked about it that weekend before Thanksgiving. I went in, I saw the BX500. I saw that BX500 for $194. $194 versus like this one went up in price. This one was $239. This went up $20 after Black Friday. It went up by $20. The Inland brand was $239, but the Micron one was $194. This was the only one that was under $200 for a 4 terabyte, and I don't buy anything smaller than 4 terabyte anymore. Like I've drawn the line in the sand. It's like minimum 4 terabyte. For me. Now, some people might still be okay with buying 2 terabyte. I think dollar per gigabyte, 4 terabyte is where it's at. That's where you're going to get the best value. 8 terabyte is still way too overpriced. 2 terabyte is almost the same as 4 terabyte. But if you can afford to get the 4 terabyte, it's better to get the 4 terabyte. Trust me, you'll be way happier with the 4 terabyte than the 2 terabyte. Considering how big Steam games are nowadays, you know what I'm saying? The way these modern games are, they take up so much space now. So 4 terabytes where it's at. But look at this. Western Digital 4 terabyte. This thing used to be $239. Now it's $310. But here's where it gets stupid crazy. So the Samsung 990 Evo Plus 4 terabyte. Oh my goodness. This went up another $28. This was $299 during Black Friday. The Samsung 990 Evo Plus 4 terabyte. When I bought this, back when I did that video on it, I paid $220. $219. Now it is way more than $100 markup from what I paid back in September. So this is why I'm telling you, now is not the time to buy Samsung. Samsung upped their price so much that I cannot recommend Samsung right now. Unfortunately, the remainder are also going up. It's like these lower end drives, like the Inland QN. This is a DRAM-less QLC. This one's already up. This one used to be like right around $200. It was like $219, $209. Now it's $259. So the price of all these things are going up. I'm noticing the upward trend. It's not as noticeable as DRAM, but it is. You can see the prices rising. Oh, here it is. There's the Crucial. This was $194 during the Black Friday sale. Now, look at the price after the Black Friday sale. So, if you needed flash memory, Black Friday was the time to get it. Black Friday was the time to buy SSDs. That's what I was telling people. I was telling people, get your SSDs while you can, because you're going to be paying more next year, because these are going to keep trending upward. So, yeah. "32-inch 4K OLED had the best discounts on the Black Friday." What were they priced at? Were they like sub 1,000? Were they sub 1,000? The 32-inch. "32-inch OLED." What is this one? Yeah, I guess. I mean, this is not the same one. This is a different one than the one that I have, but it's, I mean, I haven't looked at OLEDs in a while, so I don't know. I don't know, what's a good one. What's the roadmap for NVMEs? The NVMe, the prices, well, what do you mean by roadmap? You talking about like the next generation of NVMEs? Really, all you're going to see across the board are more Gen 5 SSDs start showing up that run lower power. But they're going to be expensive. Anything Gen 5 is going to be overpriced. So, I mean, I typically recommend the cheapest stuff. So if you go Gen 5, 4 terabyte Gen 5, the lowest price right now is the Samsung 9100 Pro 4 terabyte. So this one is, you're at the break even. I consider this break even. For Gen 5, you're not getting any sort of, you're not really getting any benefit in the sense that you're paying roughly, what is it, you're paying the full 10 cents? 10 cents a gig. You're basically paying $100 per terabyte. You're paying $100 a terabyte for this one. This is like the lowest priced one also. So, I personally wouldn't buy it. But I mean, if you really want Gen 5, just to say you have Gen 5, I mean, I do have the one Gen 5 SSD. Would I buy it all over again? Probably not, to be honest. But I do have the one T700 from Crucial. I mean, I've already kind of made it clear what I would personally buy. It wouldn't be that. I would buy, well, they're already not price competitive anymore. But yeah, I would get whatever the cheapest one is. So I guess this Inland QN 450. Or I would try to look at which one of these, T-Force, whatever one. Oh man, $300 though. That is not a good price. These are not good prices. None of these are good prices. All the Samsung ones are like super overpriced. All these Gen 4 SSDs. Like that's really bad. Real bad. This Inland Performance Plus, it's also way overpriced. Although this one does have the DRAM on it. MSI had the best deals. Yeah, I mean, if you're in the market for OLED. Yeah. Yeah, but it looks like prices are on upward trajectory, you know, so this doesn't look too good for those looking for computer parts. If we look at graphics cards real quick, so graphics cards, so right now the best deal on graphics cards are probably going to be those AMD 9070 XTs that are like sub $600. This is actually under MSRP, guys. Like, this is literally under MSRP. You see what I'm saying? So it's like the MSRP of the 9070 XT is $600. So anything less than $600 is, in this current market, is a good deal. So this is a good deal. That's automatically a good deal because it's less than the MSRP. So let's see if there's an NVIDIA one that's actually under MSRP. So far, I'm not seeing any NVIDIA card. I'm seeing NVIDIA cards that are at MSRP, but I'm not seeing any that are under MSRP. Like the 5070 Ti, the MSRP is $750. So this is not a deal. This is literally just you're paying the full price of the GPU. You're not actually saving money. So this one you're wasting $100. So you know what I mean? Like, and the 5080 is MSRP is $1,000. So here's one that's at $1,000, but this one has literally no RGB. There's no lights at all. It's completely dark. The same thing with this 5070 Ti. There are literally no lights. There's no RGB. It's just a complete black, dark card. You'll never be able to see it. This one's like $350 overprice, over MSRP on the 5080 there. So it's like none of the NVIDIA ones are priced well at all, as far as I'm concerned. It's like this one, you're paying $100 for RGB on that one. So it's like the AMD ones are actually on Black Friday sales. Like the NVIDIA ones are literally just sitting there at their MSRP, a lot of them. So, whoa, there's like a 700 XTX for $700. This is the cheapest way to get a brand new GPU that has 24 gigs of VRAM. Like, for real, 24 gigs of VRAM, $700? Brand new? Wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah, those 9070 XT ones, these are the deals, man. Like, these are the ones to get. Like, another way for me to rephrase this is like, this is basically the 5070 Ti for under $600. Because at the end of the day, they have the exact same performance. Like, you'll never be able to tell the difference between the two of them. So, same amount of VRAM, you know, I think similar power consumption. So it's like there's none of that stupid NVIDIA power connector, melt the house, melt the connector problem. None of that stuff. Although there are two of the AMD cards do have that connector, but this one doesn't have that connector. So, you know, it's not like it's just way more practical. So if someone was building a new computer now, I mean, this is kind of what I would push them to. Like, if they wanted my opinion, I would tell them to get this, probably. I'd probably tell them to get this at Micro Center, assuming they live near Micro Center, because it's like, hey, you're actually buying a GPU during the holiday season, and you're actually getting it under MSRP. So this is a legit deal. Like, this is actually less than the MSRP. So you can't really argue against that. That's a pretty good deal. So considering how much money memory costs right now, like, let's take a look at memory. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's even worse than the last time we looked at it. Wow, look at this. $875 for 64 gigabytes DDR5 6000 CL30. $875. Literally, like 2 months ago, you could buy 128 gigabytes of memory. Or no, you could buy 256 gigabytes. You could literally buy 4 sticks of this RAM for the same amount of money. Now, you're getting 1/4 of that capacity for the same amount of money. So what does that mean? Does that mean memory prices are up 170% or something like that? Or no, I don't think it's that high, but that's an insane jump. This is it, guys. This is back to the memory price of the RAM when it launched, when DDR5 was brand new in 2021. Whoa, it's gone full circle. It launched so expensive, and then after like 4 years, it went all the way down. And in 30 days, it climbed all the way back up to the launch price of DDR5 that accompanied Intel's 12th gen Alder Lake launch back in November of 2021 in the midst of the pandemic. Oh my goodness. We are true. This is the signs of a return to the dark times. Wow. $875 for 64 gigs of RAM. Oh my goodness. This isn't even like high performance RAM. This is just like basic gamer RAM, you know? This is like the most basic SK Hynix memory you can find. And this is how much it costs. Like, wow. Why is Micron leaving the DRAM, well, the consumer market, when they can get away with these type of stupid prices? I don't know, man. This is hilarious. Oh man, wow. Okay, let's take a look. Where's my magic memory? I want to see my magic memory. How much is my memory worth? Can I sell my memory? Can I sell? Because I'm sitting on a whole bunch of DDR5 right now. Let's see. Where's my secret RAM? Where's the special RAM? Oh, here it is. There's one of them. Where's the... Yeah, there's one of them. Where's the magic memory, though? Where's my magic memory? There it is. All right. All right, let's take a look. This is my magic memory. This is the one that's in all of my how to run DDR5 8000 videos. So this is my 8000 memory kit, what I call the magic memory. Why is it the magic memory? Because it runs DDR5 8000 at 1.35 volts. That means it doesn't run hot. That means it doesn't thermal throttle. And that means that it can pass stability tests very easily because it doesn't generate a lot of heat. And oftentimes, what causes your Y cruncher and your Memtest 86 to fail and run errors is because your memory is running too hot, because you're pushing it too high on the voltage. And that's what's going to cause a problem. So this one's the magic kit that it runs 8000 at a low 1.35 and rock solid stable. I have this memory kit in the X870E ASRock Nova right now, 100% rock stable. I use that for the living room PC for the VR setup. It's great. So for the gamer setup. So this is what I call the gamer enthusiast RAM kit. And the gamer RAM is currently approaching $500. Do you know how much I paid for this memory back when I bought it in, I think, December of 2023? Or maybe it was January of 2024. Either way, I've had this RAM for about 2 years. And I paid $229 or $230. $230. Now it's $480. $480. That means this is literally more than double the price of what I paid. I could literally sell my memory and make the amount of money to basically buy, or I guess, I don't know, like the amount of like buying 2 of them if I wait 2 years. But yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of ridiculous. So anyway, this is my magic memory. And then the other one is this one. Okay, so this one. This is the memory that is featured. I featured 2 kits. So that's 4 sticks in all of my how to run 192 gigabyte, blah, blah, blah. All those videos, the how to do hard mode, I'll run 192 gigs of DDR5 at 6000. This is that memory kit. This is the exact memory kit featured in all the videos where I show how to run 192 gigabytes of memory. And look at the price of this. Do you guys know how much I paid for this kit of memory? $350 for the first one. And the second one, $320, because I bought it twice. The first one I bought it was $350, $349 from Micro Center. The second kit I bought later. I think it was like 2 months after or something. 319. So basically what Marcus said, yeah, 320, somewhere around 320. That's what I remember. 320 and 350 for both of them together. So the total price I paid for 2 kits of this kit is less than 1 kit is in the current market. So the high dense stuff is the stuff that's going exponentially more expensive. $900 for the magic memory that you can buy 2 of them, stick them together, and run 192 gigs at 5 or at 6,000. So, man, $900 for the dense memory kit. My dual rank. This is my dual rank. This is my single rank. My single rank DIMMs are almost $500. My dual rank DIMMs are at $900. Insanity. It's now more money. This is now like pretty much the same price as launch prices of DDR5 back in 2021. Crazy, crazy stuff. We are entering the dark times, man. And it might get worse. It might get worse. Especially because Crucial is leaving the consumer market. You know what that means. What does that mean when a company leaves the market? That means that they leave a void. There's a gap. So it's like if this is your supply. So if you've got Samsung, Hynix, and Crucial, we'll just use their actual company name, Micron. So if you have these 3 and the entire pie of memory, if the total market share is 100% across all 3 companies, if you remove them from consumer, that means now you have less supply. You have less supply available to consumers because you had 3 suppliers. If you remove a supplier, naturally now the remaining suppliers have to fill that hole. They got to fill that void that the one who left behind. So if Micron, let's just draw this out. I don't know what the actual market share numbers are. Let's just make it simple. Let's just do 1/3 each. It's obviously probably not 1/3 each, but it doesn't really matter. In general, you have 3 slices of the pie. If you remove one of them, like if this is all of a sudden gone, now the remaining 2 have to fill in this void. So you know what that means? That means the supply of memory is going to be even more constrained, at least initially, because now all of a sudden you have less choices. You have less choices because you don't have Micron anymore selling to consumer. So you know what that means? What's going to happen to the prices? What's going to happen to the prices if you lose a supplier? They go up. That means they go up. Prices are going to go up. With Micron announcing that they're leaving, prices are going to go even more up. So now Micron is trying to shift their strategy to be business oriented only. So that could kind of like prevent too much price upward trend for consumers. Because now there's a big if though. If Micron shifts all of their manufacturing capacity to the business to professional side, they no longer sell Crucial. That means 100% of Micron's output will be business to business sales. So that means that the idea behind that is that in the business to business world, if you have 3 players in the business to business sale, if Micron like starts flooding the enterprise market with more supply than Samsung and Hynix were doing. Because think about it, it's like if you have two water hoses, one is filling a swimming pool over here, and the other one's filling like a pond or a lake or something. But now all of a sudden you're not going to fill the pond anymore. Now you're just going to fill the swimming pool. So now you have both of your water hoses filling up the swimming pool. So now you got more supply going into that pool. So Micron can push more product into their market share, or I guess their customer, their business customers. They can provide more supply to their enterprise customers. So it remains to be seen like what the ramifications of that will be on the consumer side, because initially it's going to cause higher prices, because it's like, okay, now you only have Samsung and Hynix to choose from. So what does that mean? That means you have less choices. That means you have to pay more prices. I mean, you have higher prices. Now, on the business side, the whole idea is like, okay, well, now all of a sudden Micron can sell way more. They can volume flood to a degree the business sector, the enterprise customer sector, the server market, essentially. That means that they can probably offer more competitive rebates than what Samsung and Hynix can do if Samsung and Hynix are supply constrained, because Samsung and Hynix are still trying to fill consumer market. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really fully understand if this is the right strategy for Micron, because I think so. This strategy of leaving consumers in the dust in favor of business to business customers only, is they're really all in on AI. This is what they mean by they're all in on AI, because they think that they can sell to businesses that are willing to pay higher prices to get memory allocation, versus selling to people who, like you and me, who we don't want to pay high prices. I mean, I literally showed you guys, like when I shop for an SSD, I filter by the lowest price. I want the cheapest SSD. So people like that, you think Micron wants to sell to people like that who want to pay the lowest price possible? The guy who's looking for the Black Friday deal to get like a Micron SSD for under $200 with a 4 terabyte capacity? Like, you really think they care about customers like that compared to customers that are willing to spend, like Dell, for example, or HP, or whoever manufactures pre-built servers, who are willing to pay premium prices to guarantee their stock allocation of memory? So obviously they're going to cater toward the latter versus a regular consumer. But I don't know if it's smart to fully exit the consumer market, all because they're taking advantage of the short-term profit margins that the business customer is willing to pay them, if that makes sense. Because we don't know how long, like there's all this stuff about, oh, the AI thing is a bubble, but with Micron doing a move like this is a very risky move, but it might be a calculated risk that Micron is willing to take, because Micron might know more than you and I about how long the AI bubble is going to last. Because people keep talking about the AI bubble. If the AI bubble bursts early next year, Micron is toast. Like, this is like a really bad strategy to get out of the consumer market, lay off a bunch of people in your supply chain for Crucial, and then all of a sudden, you know, that's a lot of risk. But they're willing to make that move. They went there, they did it, they announced it, they're doing it. Crucial's going away. You will no longer be able to buy Micron SSDs. T710 is the last one. All their SSDs are going away. All their memory is going away for consumers. So, I don't know. Like, they're all in on AI. They're all in on AI. This move signals that they are all 100% in on AI. They're all in on the AI hype. And leaving consumers in the dust is proof that they are all in on AI. Micron is on your no-buy list after this. Well, I mean, regardless of whether they're on your no-buy list or not, I mean, they're literally leaving the consumer market. So whether you want to buy them or not, you're not going to have a choice. You won't be able to buy them, even if they're on your no-buy list. So that's kind of, I find that a funny statement, because it's like, if you hated them before, well, you're not gonna be able to buy them anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, after February, they're gone. So, wow. So they're all in on AI. This is gonna cause the consumer market to struggle for a while, because this is gonna cause memory prices to go super high, elevated. They're gonna stay elevated for a long time. Analysts are already saying 3 years. 3 years. So imagine 3 years of this type of memory price. So this is SK Hynix. SK Hynix. And the thing is, SK Hynix and Samsung are not the saviors. They're not the saviors. They're the ones who are going to be able to capitalize on super, super high prices from consumers. They're basically going to shaft all the consumers and get all the big profits, because it's like, hey, you need your memory to finish your build? You better give me that $900. Give me that $1,000. Give me that $1,000 for your 96 gigabytes if you want your 96 gigs. Because 96 gigs is the that's where it's at right now. 96 48 fast, 96 big. That's what I tell people. You're either 48 gigs fast or you're 96 gigs big. Like, you want big memory, you go 96. If you want fast memory, you go 48. That's what I tell people. I mean, that's what I run my personal rigs. My gaming rig is 48 gig DDR5 8000. My streaming, production, whatever you want to call it, rig is 96 gigs. So, those are the numbers. And these guys know that those are the numbers, because they know that those in the know are going to target these type of memory kits. So they're going to charge these ridiculously high prices. I wouldn't be surprised if this particular memory kit keeps on climbing and gets up to like $1,200 by March of next year. So this one's probably going to, because this was low capacity, this is going to top out at some point. I don't see this climbing to like some stupid number like 700. This could probably approach $600, but I don't think this can go above 600, just because it's not high enough capacity. The ones that are really gonna, like, it's these big dual rank kits that are gonna go way up, man, because they know people are desiring to have the memory. People want the big memory. So they know they can get away with upping the price, because at some point it's gonna be hilarious. Because it's like, well, at some point, like, you can buy, like, at some point you're gonna be able to buy 2 of these for less money than 1 of these. At some point that's gonna happen. So people are gonna have to, like, sacrifice upgradability. They're gonna have to max out 4 sticks 96, which is totally fine for Zen 5, for example. It's also good on Intel too. So that is kind of the way to go. And what's ironic is that is what people are probably going to be forced to do, and forego having to buy the big dual rank or the big dual rank kits, these kits, because they're going to become too cost prohibitive for the average consumer. It's unfortunate. They're going to have to start with like a 48 gig and then look for some kind of deal and then double up to 96 by buying the same kit again. Like, there's going to be a lot of that going on over the next 2 to 3 years. But yeah, this is, I don't know. Wow, that's crazy. Well, we were talking about this last week before Black Friday. I was saying how, man, I missed the window of opportunity. I wanted to buy that 256 gigabyte kit from G-Skill. It was like $800 a few months ago on Newegg. I should have bought it. Now, I will never buy it. So it's like, There won't be any videos on this channel, unfortunately, showcasing 256 gigs of RAM anytime soon. Unless they want to send me a reviewer's kit or something, then I gotta send it back to them because of the supply shortage. There's gonna be nothing that goes beyond 192 gigs on this channel in terms of like memory overclocking content because of this whole situation. Apparently someone traded RAM for a 4070 Ti. I think they might have gotten ripped off. Yeah, man. Right now the RAM is worth it. The RAM is worth more than the GPU. For real. 4070 Ti is worth what, like $500? Like $450, some around there. Wow. Let's look at laptop memory. Oh boy. Okay, yeah. And it's all crucial. Ooh, this one actually went down. Ooh, this is on sale. Yeah, I looked at this a few days ago. I am so glad I didn't return this to Micro Center. I bought this kit of memory back in the summer. So you guys remember, so this memory kit, I bought it from Micro Center to upgrade my old ThinkPad P15V Gen 3. So that laptop had it has 232 gig. It's 32 gigs in there total, so 216. And I wanted to double up to 64, and then I saw, oh, they don't have 64 gigabytes in stock, but they have 96 gigabytes in stock. And it was like, oh, I looked at it, I'm like, oh, it's $304. Man, $304 seems like a lot of money. I was thinking, like, I don't know about this. $304 seems like a lot of memory for this laptop RAM. So I went to Micro Center, I bought the RAM, I got it home, I put it in the laptop. Everything worked fine. Laptop recognized 96 gigs, DDR5. Now, that laptop can't run DDR5 5600. It can only run DDR5 4800, but I was okay with that because I only care about the capacity. So I was running it at DDR5 4800 for, like 5 days or whatever. And I'm like, do I really need this? I need to return this to get my money back, man, because this is like, I don't think I need 96 gigs for that laptop, Like, I was like, what am I doing here? I need to take this back and return this, get it back. But then I thought, well, maybe I should just hold on to it just because, And now, fast forward to where we are today. So I never returned to the store. I kept that memory. And I am so glad that I kept that memory now that I see what it's priced at now. This is on sale. Literally a few days ago, it was the maxed out. It was $635. $635. I paid $304 back in, I think, August. It was like August or early September was when I bought it from Micro Center for $304. And I am so glad I didn't return it. I'm so glad I didn't return it. Because now what I did was I got that Black Friday deal laptop. You guys remember we were looking at Black Friday deals? So they have this one. So HP Omen Max. They have the Black Friday deal laptop. Yeah, this one. This one right here. So they have the 5080 laptop GPU. Yeah, this one. So I bought this laptop, and it's $100 more now than what it was when I got it before the Black Friday. So I paid $17.99. $17.99 for a gamer laptop with a GeForce RTX 5080 laptop GPU. 16 gigs of GDDR7, 32 gigs of DDR5, 5600, 1 terabyte SSD. It has another, you can add in a second SSD. So I literally went and I added, here we are again with Crucial's P310, 4 terabyte, or actually no, I put a Lexar, but same deal. It's like this is equivalent. So I put this in as a second drive, 4 terabyte. So we got like 5 terabytes total now. Under $2,000. Under $2,000, RTX 5080 laptop GPU. And what did I do with that 96 gigabyte kit, this memory kit? Where do you think I put this memory kit? I took this out of that old laptop and I stuck it in here. So now I have a Ryzen AI 9 HX375. This CPU, this APU has really powerful integrated graphics paired up with the GeForce 5080 in a laptop form factor with 96 gigabytes of Crucial with 4 more terabytes on a second SSD added up. So this thing is maxed out. This thing is now literally a desktop replacement. It has 96 gigabytes of DDR5, 5600 running at the correct 5600 speed because that's what it's rated for. And it has like 8 hours plus battery life because it has the super energy efficient Strix Point APU. Monolithic design, 12 core, 24 thread, all day battery life in a gamer laptop and dead silent when running it on battery. The fans don't even spin up. So good. Insane deal. These are the type of deals that I look for, though, on the Black Friday sales. Pretty much free upgrade of RAM if you sell that 32 gig kit. Yeah, you're right. I could sell the 32 gigabyte kit because I still have the 32 gigabyte kit. Yeah, you're right. I do have the stock RAM that came with the laptop. I literally put it in the little packaging. It's literally sitting in the original Crucial packaging that the Crucial kit came in. So it's crazy we're talking about Micron stuff. And you know what? Discussing this openly with you guys, I realized, like, I have a ton of Crucial, like, I bought a lot of Micron stuff as a consumer. And they're leaving the market. So that means I'm not going to give them any more of my money. Even, I mean, subconsciously or consciously or unconsciously, they're not going to get any more of my money because they're leaving the consumers in favor of AI. So, I mean, I bought their 96 gigabyte RAM kit. I bought their P310 SSD. I bought their BX500 on Black Friday deal for under $200. I have their T700 Gen 5 SSD. So I literally have like all of Micron's like stuff essentially. I did buy a kit of Corsair Vengeance like years ago, which was Micron based, and it was totally fine. But yeah, I don't know. They're leaving the market for some reason. They're going business only. You never used Crucial for SSD or RAM. They're a good brand. Micron's good. Micron is known for reliability, but that's also because Micron doesn't really dabble in the overclocking world. So that might be one of the reasons why they're reliable, because they just run things at JEDEC most of the time. Or if they run things, if they have an XMP or Expo profile, it's not overly aggressive. So that's why they can get away with saying, "Oh, we're a very reliable brand." Well, that's because you guys don't really do much overclocking. So when you don't overclock, it's not going to be unreliable. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be reliable when you run your stuff at stock. So, yeah, I mean, their stuff is good. Yeah, ballistics, yeah. I have, I got a DDR5, I got a ballistics DDR3 memory kit from way back in the days of like Bulldozer, you know, and the Intel Ivy Bridge or whatever, like Haswell, whatever the DDR3 Intel stuff was way back in the day. Yeah, I've got I don't have any modern Micron RAM. I got one kit of Micron memory, which I can show you guys if I can remember what it is. So it is Corsair, it is Vengeance, and it is 64 gigs. And it is DDR5 5200. This is it. Yep, this is the memory kit. That's the kit. This is Micron. Micron inside. DDR5 5200 CL40 40 77 1.2. That is 100% the Micron memory. I have this exact kit. This kit is paired up in it's in a build with a 7800 X3D in a X670 ASRock Steel Legend. So I have this kit of memory paired up with an 7800 X3D running at DDR5 5200. Why? Because this is the maximum supported speed for that CPU. So this is it. And it's 64 gigs. And I think I paid like around 300. It was like $340 back in the day. Now I bought it back in like 2023. So it's been over 2 years. I think it was like summer 20. So almost like about 2.5 years at this point. I did not pay $755. I paid like 300 something for this Micron memory with the Corsair Vengeance brand on it. But my goodness, Micron, what are you guys doing leaving consumers in favor of AI? That could be a huge gamble. I don't know about that. You don't see Samsung and Hynix doing that. So I don't know. OpenAI staff are popping up in major retailers to buy up their stock. Buy up their stock of what? Of RAM? That could be true. That could be true. Because OpenAI is a relatively small company. So they could totally be doing... I could believe that. Right now, see, what a lot of people don't know is there's a lot of companies out there that sell servers, like Dell, HP, Lenovo, companies that manufacture servers, Supermicro, does IBM still make servers? Cisco, like those companies that make servers. Basically, any company that makes servers has already publicly announced that they have supply chain channel challenges. They're saying challenges, not problems. They got challenges with lead times. So OpenAI, I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Altman is like, hey guys, go to your local Micro Center, go to your Best Buy, ask them if they've got any memory in stock because we need to fill up those servers. And because Dell and HP and Lenovo and these others are having problems, so let's try to circumvent them and go and get the memory from the consumer market. So they could probably totally be doing that. Now the problem is they got to buy RDIMM. So they're not going to be buying this stuff. They're going to be buying a specific type of memory called RDIMM, registered for their servers. So they're going to be buying, this stuff. And let's see, what's a good number? Like 256, 8 or 4 gigs or whatever. So yeah, $2,000 for this. Although I don't think they're gonna buy this. This is overclocked DDR5. Oh, actually, no, it's not. Never mind. They're buying this. Yeah, this is what they're buying because this is JEDEC. CL36 64 CL36 1.1 volt. That's really good, actually. 1.1 6400 1.1 though. That's good. Wow. That's not even that bad for that speed. Yeah, this is the type of stuff that they're buying up though for that $19.99. Best Buy doesn't sell it. No, they're just buying it off of Newegg and Micro Center. They're going to Newegg and Micro Center. But I don't think Best Buy sells RDIMM. They're buying this stuff. It's funny because this stuff's meant for Threadripper. The fact that it's in a store like Micro Center means it's meant for like someone who's going to build their own server. Threadripper, you know, like what they're buying up like the Threadripper people's stuff. Like what? And they're just gonna throw it in some random Epic or Xeon server or whatever for the AI front end or what, or like their storage network or something. I don't know what they're doing with it, but anyway. Oh man, that's so bad. That's so bad. The funny thing is the RDIMM prices are not crazy outrageous though. Like this is not hold on, cuz what was the other price? So what's their 128? Like where's my 128 gig RDIMM? Oh, they don't even have it anymore. But I have a G Skill. I basically have that same exact kit except it's not that one. It's the overclocked one. And it's 128 gigs for Threadripper, 6400. This one is the JDEC one. This one is the Micron one, though. Oh, no, it's not. This might be Samsung. 1.35. This might be Samsung. I don't know. It could be Micron or Samsung for the Kingston Fury. This could be Micron, though. This is either Samsung or Micron, but the CL28 doesn't look like a Micron cast latency to me. This is probably Samsung, if I had to guess. But it could be no, it actually could be SK Hynix. No, this could be SK Hynix because it's cast latency 28 at 1.35. Most likely this is probably SK Hynix, although I'm not 100% sure because it's ECC. So, I don't know. That's probably SK Hynix, though. It's crazy how Hynix is the one that you see in all of the consumer DDR5. It's like all the enthusiasts who are buying DDR5, they only buy Hynix. They don't buy Micron. They don't buy Samsung. They only buy Hynix. So maybe that's another reason. Well, I don't think that's the reason because Micron and Samsung still sell into the OEM market. So people who are buying if you're buying an Alienware or you're buying an Omen or a pre-built from CyberPower PC or some boutique system builder, you're probably getting Samsung or Micron RAM without knowing it. And it's not going to be running some stupidly high speeds like DDR5 8000 or anything like that. So that's usually what ends up happening. But for the true enthusiasts who build their own computers, they're typically buying Hynix when it comes to DDR5. So I wouldn't be surprised if this stuff is Hynix. Because I know the G-Skill one is Hynix. So this one might be Hynix also. The G-Skill one is Hynix. For the Threadripper. I know that because I have that kit. And the way I can tell is I just look at the CL. The cast latency tells me the number. And that tells me if it's Hynix. But yeah, most of the enthusiast stuff is Hynix anyway. So I guess it doesn't really matter that Micron's leaving. But for when you leave in the middle of a shortage and you're a memory company, you're going to create a big problem for your consumers. Or your ex-consumers. No, basically anything that is this stuff. Well, okay, this is 36, but this is still probably Hynix. This is most likely Hynix. The G-Skill Z5 Neo, or the what do they call this? Is the Zeta. The Zeta. The one that I have is Hynix. And I think I paid like $1,000 for 128 gigs of RDIMM, 6400, 1.35 volts CL32 back in 2 years ago, a little more than 2 years ago now. It was when I built that Threadripper computer. So, yeah. Yeah. The prices are crazy right now, though. Like, RAM is the worst thing to buy right now. SSDs are getting expensive again. Graphics cards are actually right now. I'll be honest with you guys. Right now, graphics cards are surprisingly not insane in terms of the price points. At least if you're looking at like 5070 Ti and especially 9070 XT. 9070 XT is actually, you can get one for under MSRP, but there are a lot of 5070 Ti that are at MSRP. There's even a couple of 5080s that are at MSRP. Now, these are the ones that don't have fancy RGB on them, so they're not going to have any fancy lights or anything, so they don't look that cool. But they're at MSRP. And then you have these other ones that are like super expensive, but whatever. I mean, that's not what we're talking about here. So, yeah. I would ignore ones like this, though. Basically, if you're in the market for a GPU, you better know what MSRP actually is for the GPU you're considering. Because that way you actually know if you're getting a deal or not. So the MSRP for the 9070 XT is $600. The MSRP for the 5070 Ti is $750. So I think those are the two GPUs that I'd recommend for most people right now. I don't typically recommend the GPUs that are lower end than those two, unless they have high VRAM. Like if they have 16 gigs of VRAM, then maybe. But I don't recommend any 8GB GPU. In fact, 12GB GPU is considered like minimum spec in my mind. And even then, I personally would not feel comfortable buying a 12GB GPU, knowing what I know about how games are getting so VRAM demanding. If you want to run all the high textures, you're going to need more than 12 gigs of VRAM. So, especially if you're planning to play at 1440p and high refresh and turn all the textures on, you're going to need more than 12 in a lot of these newer games. So that's why 12 is minimum spec. 8GB doesn't even meet minimum spec anymore. And I'm not the only one that's saying this. Like even Digital Foundry is saying the same thing. Digital Foundry is not recommending any 8GB GPU anymore either for this reason, because they recognize the exact same things that I've noticed when I've been testing a bunch of games. And you guys know I do a lot of like live stream games, or I live stream a bunch of games in real time, and I crank all the settings up and we run those things at 4K, so we see worst case scenario. And yeah, in my mind personally, like the lowest amount of VRAM that I like on a GPU that I would actually purchase is 16 gigabytes. In my mind, 16 gigabytes is minimum spec for like a future-proofed machine. And that's not good enough for 4K. But I recognize that not everyone's gaming at 4K, but typically what I see happen is that when new games come out, they use copious amounts of VRAM, and if enough people complain, so the game is commercially successful, and if enough people are playing the game with their pitiful 8GB GPU, or their potato from like 10 years ago, and they're like the vocal minority complaining and leaving negative reviews on Steam, what will end up happening is the developers will nerf the VRAM requirement, but that will have detrimental effects on how the game looks and behaves. The best example I can give you is Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy at release used a ton of VRAM. Even at like 1440p, it was using like 11 gigs of VRAM. So you had all these people with RTX 3080s that had 10 gigs of VRAM, and they were like maxed out on their VRAM, and the game was stuttering and had terrible minimums and 0.1 lows, and they were like, this game is trash. So what they did was they patched the game so that it doesn't use that much VRAM, but now it's like, we did a live stream showing this. Like, you look at the ground, and you're on an 8GB GPU, and in the old build, the frame rate was fine, but you'd have like weird stutters and hitches every now and then, but the textures and everything were there, and everything looked consistent. After the nerf, it used less VRAM, so if you have a 10GB GPU, now it's using like 6.5 gigs of VRAM or whatever. But you go and look at the ground and you would see the tessellation texture. You'd see like popping everywhere. Like it was really bad. And that was the new version of the game. And that's how the game currently behaves. And I was thinking, man, they should not have all they should have done was like if the VRAM is less than whatever, like nerf the game for them. But if not, like if it's someone like me who had like 24 gigs of VRAM because I was on a 7900 XTX, don't nerf the game for me. I mean, I've got all the VRAM. I don't care. Load the VRAM up. Like I want to see all the textures consistently. I don't want this stupid like popping in and out because you have to nerf your VRAM stream compression because some rando with 8 gigs of VRAM can't play the game because they have terrible hardware. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's annoying. I find that very annoying as an enthusiast who has like a powerful machine. It's like, why do I get lumped in with people who have potatoes for compute? You know what I'm saying? So, and the same thing happened with Monster Hunter Wilds. Monster Hunter Wilds at release used so much VRAM, like the game was literally using more than 20 gigs of VRAM for 1440p with the ultra texture pack, the high resolution texture pack. Monster Hunter Wilds was using more than 20 gig. It was like 22.6 gigs of VRAM for Monster Hunter Wilds at not even 4K, 1440p at launch. That's how much it used. All those review guys they were looking at the benchmark tool. The benchmark tool was not showing you the real deal. You had to actually go in the game, go to the forest, and then you'll see the true VRAM number. At launch, it was that much VRAM, and you can imagine all these gamers with their, like 3060 Ti, 8 gig, 4070, whatever, like low VRAM stuff. Like all these people with low VRAM struggling so hard to run the game. And the fix was turn on frame gen, but it's like a lot of people didn't want to do that. Oh, and the other thing too was people on the 30 series, the NVIDIA 30 series, they don't even have frame gen with DLSS. So they're like, oh, I don't get frame gen because I'm on NVIDIA's old GPU and NVIDIA doesn't care about me. But somehow that's like Monster Hunter's problem. So the workaround for those people was to use FSR, to use frame gen on the AMD style. And a lot of them didn't really want to do that, or they reluctantly would do it, but then they would still have the stupid VRAM, like the frame buffers like maxed out on their 8 gig GPU, so they're complaining about poor performance. So Capcom nerfed it multiple times with each title update, and even between title updates. And the game actually runs way worse for people with higher end hardware compared to people with lower end hardware. It runs slightly better for people with lower spec PCs, but it runs worse overall for people with high spec PCs because of the way they nerfed the VRAM, the streaming texture stuff through direct storage. So hopefully they readdress all of that in a couple of weeks with title update 4. But man, this is an example of the problem with gaming on PC, because you have like a person who has 24 gigs of VRAM or 32 gigs of VRAM, or where the point I'm making is you have someone who VRAM is not an issue. Then you have someone who VRAM is an issue. Then you have someone where VRAM might be an issue, like they're sitting on a 16 gigabyte GPU and they might be able to get by at 1440p, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, memory. If there's one key takeaway from this whole discussion is VRAM, memory, DRAM from Hynix, Micron, Samsung is the new gold, so to speak, of AI. Because we've seen how the gaming industry has scaled up VRAM requirements with newer games. This is only going to continue. This is not going to go away unless somebody invents a brand new way to compress the textures or whatever, to reduce the amount of VRAM. Unless there's some kind of breakthrough technology in graphics techniques for rendering, or I guess rendering techniques. Until that happens, the trend of like more VRAM, more better, and newer game automatically equals more VRAM required. Like that trend is not going to go away. That is like the new current standard of how games are designed. So I mean, there's like a really good video game. There's an interview. There's like no, it's not even an interview. It's a there was like a webinar recently. There was a couple ones from Valve a few years ago. But there was like a really good 3-part webinar from Software, the guys who make Elden Ring. Dude, that webinar explains why. When like the thing I understood from that was, okay, what I gather is that traversal stutter is never gonna go away because all these PCs have limited amounts of VRAM. So the only way you can fix all of this is if you make your computer, your CPU infinitely faster, which is not going to happen, or you have infinite VRAM, which is also not going to happen. So, VRAM is the thing, guys. It's like the VRAM is what makes a GPU be priced at where it's at. The reason why the 5090 is so expensive compared to the 5080 and the others is because it has double the VRAM. And you go look at this. You go look at RTX Pro 6000. This thing, $9,000 for one GPU. The only reason why this is $9,000 is because it has 96 gigabytes of VRAM. 96 gigabytes of VRAM. With this much VRAM, you can play Monster Hunter Wilds at 4K with the highest resolution texture pack, maxed out everything. You can allow the game to flex its full muscle all the way out into that crazy like 27 gigabyte VRAM amount where it's like almost approaching the limit of what a 5090 can handle in terms of VRAM allocation. So of loading, because it'll just load into VRAM. It'll never it'll never free it up if it doesn't have to. But that's the reason why Monster Hunter runs so poorly on the average computer. Because the loading constantly and flushing the table and loading and flushing and loading. The next time you play Monster Hunter Wilds, open your task manager, click on the SSD or wherever you have the game installed, and watch how, as you play the game, you constantly have SSD activity on your drive 100% of the time while you're playing Monster Hunter. Because it's constantly reading from the SSD. It is going to add up the write cycles on that SSD like so fast. Because it is using that direct storage 1.0. So, and a lot of video games are starting to use these techniques. Microsoft is pushing that in terms of game development. Like Microsoft wants everyone to do that. Read from the SSD. Just read from the SSD. So that's because it's like, okay, planned obsolescence, forced obsolescence. So that basically anyone who's trying to play a game that uses direct storage on a SATA SSD, they're going to start having a terrible experience. The game's going to have texture pop in everywhere. It's going to feel like you're playing the game almost as bad as on a regular old hard drive. So, and then the people who are on like a Gen 4 SSD, they're okay. Gen 3 SSD will probably be okay. But if it's going to be direct storage 1.0, even like a PCI Gen 3 SSD will probably, if it's one that doesn't have like DRAM cache, it'll probably have some problems or whatever. If you have a 32 gigabyte system. So that's another thing that goes into what makes a game smooth is like how much actual system RAM you have. So this is why I tell people you either go, well, you either go 48 fast or you go 96 big. Like that's what I tell people if you're building a computer, you know, like I don't recommend 32 gigabytes, but we're in this crazy market now where 32 gigs might be the only thing that someone can afford because it's so stupidly expensive right now. Okay. Do you think the RAM shortage could be a positive regarding game optimization? No. No. That's not something that's on developers' priority. So one thing, well, now performance is one thing that is a priority though. Performance is something that is a priority. But it's going to take someone who is outside of the actual development pipeline to come up with a way to rethink the way you do memory utilization in games. So, meaning a developer like Rockstar, well, actually, hold on, I got to rethink that because consoles are very resource constrained. So, if you're developing your game for a console, there is a very heavy incentive to optimize the game for that hardware. So yeah, if the game is going to be developed for a console, like the Switch 2 is a very good example. Like if you're developing a game for the Switch 2, you're very, very constrained in terms of your hardware resources. So PlayStation 5, similar, but it's way more capable in terms of hardware. I mean, I keep thinking of Demon's Souls, the Demon's Souls remake on PS5. That game looks and runs amazingly on base PS5. Like that game in performance mode, which is 60 rock solid 60 FPS, instantaneous load times because it uses Sony's custom, flash SSD thing, and it looks amazing. It runs the game at 1440p 60 on a base PS5 while looking really, really good. So that shows you that developers are capable of tailor making their game for a hardware constrained platform like the PlayStation 5 and getting really good performance while also achieving very good visual fidelity in that game. That is probably still, to my knowledge, the Demon's Souls remake on PS5. That is a PlayStation 5 launch title, by the way. That game is the best example I can give you of a game that is working within the constraints of a hardware platform, but it is able to achieve the intended look and performance level that the developer set out to achieve. Have you tried Skull? Yeah, you missed yesterday's stream. I already streamed Night Rain's The Forsaken Hollows yesterday. We showcased Scholar, we showcased Undertaker, both of them. I'm already up to like chapter 7 on Scholar's Remembrance questline. We did all of it on stream yesterday. And I think I'm on like chapter 2 or 3 on Undertaker. But yeah, this weekend, for those that are curious for the gaming live streams, we do weekend live streams that feature games on this channel. This weekend, it's all going to be the Forsaken Hollows. So if you want to see that game, or you want to see me playing an actual game, instead of just talking about them like we're doing right now, tune in tomorrow evening. We will be live streaming the Forsaken Hollows. We'll be going through the Remembrance quest lines. It's a ton of new content. Anyway, let me go back to Paint here. There's no point in even showcasing this stuff anymore. Okay. So let's talk about timeline. Guess I'll clean this up. Let's do timeline, I guess. You still haven't beaten the base game. You don't have to beat the final boss to unlock the new content. So, let's see. 20. How far back do we want to go? Do we really want to go all the way back to 2020? And where do we want to go all the way to 2030? All right, I'm going to set the limits 2020 to 2030. '26, 27, 28, and 29. So the first era of like scalpers, terrible prices, you know, hardware problems, it was basically around here. This was known as the dark times. And we are currently at the end of 2025, so we're on a surge. So again, we're entering the dark times, and it's probably going to be like that. So we're entering the dark times again, the second wave. So unfortunately, that's what it was. This was the era of $900 3060 Ti, $2,000 3080, $1,500 6800 XT. So this is what we have to look forward to potentially next year, because that is what happened in the past. This was a supply channel problem. This is again a supply channel problem. Now this time around, the problem is DRAM. DRAM is going to create this same exact problem. Now, we've already seen announcements from companies like AMD. AMD has already stated that they are going to raise the price of the GPUs by 10%. They've already publicly announced it. Now, NVIDIA is also raising the price, but NVIDIA is doing things in a different way. So AMD raises prices by 10% for GPUs. NVIDIA no longer bundles VRAM with their GPU chip. This is what they're doing. What this means higher prices. This also means higher prices. Why is this higher prices? Because they're no longer selling the VRAM with their chip. That means if your, PNY buys the chip from NVIDIA, now they have to buy the VRAM from you-know-who, and those guys are already announcing price increases. They've already announced price increases, all of them. All three of them. Hynix, Samsung, it doesn't matter who is going to put the VRAM, what brand of VRAM, it doesn't matter. They're charging higher prices. So that means the prices of the NVIDIA graphics cards are going to go up, just like the AMD ones. Now, AMD is still, for whatever reason, they're still buying memory from Hynix, Samsung, Micron. Like, they're still buying the RAM. NVIDIA stopped buying the RAM. So, I don't know why AMD is still buying RAM. If I were AMD, I would have copied NVIDIA. I would have just not raised the price and just say, you know what? We're no longer buying RAM. We're not going to bundle RAM with our chips anymore. So that's what we're... Oh, I didn't want to erase that. That's what we have to look forward to for next year. So, no, PNY does not make the NVIDIA Founders Edition models. Those are sold directly through NVIDIA. PNY makes the professional cards. So if you want RTX Pro 6000, this is from PNY. This is only from PNY. Any consumer RTX Pro 6000 that you can actually buy, like if you go to a Micro Center or if you go to a Best Buy, well, actually, I don't even think you buy this from Best Buy. So you have to go to a Micro Center or you have to buy it off a Newegg. It's always going to be PNY. So if you want RTX Pro 6000, it's always PNY. It's only PNY. It's no one else. It's always PNY. So, they're the exclusive dealer for the professional NVIDIA cards. No one else is allowed. Asus, none of them. None of them. EVGA never had access to this. It's always been PNY. This is why I tell people, if you don't know what brand to buy for GeForce, buy PNY. Because they're the certified, like, the highest tier partner of NVIDIA when it comes to the GeForce brand. The rest of them are there. The rest of them have sold a lot of product over the years. Like, MSI, I think, has sold a ton of GeForce cards over the history of them selling NVIDIA GPUs, but they're not the premium, or I guess like the platinum tier partner of NVIDIA when it comes to how NVIDIA views the partner status with these different AIBs. So, see, the thing is, there's different tiers of partners. Now, realistically, the ones who are exclusively GeForce, meaning they do not sell Radeon, those have a higher standing with NVIDIA for obvious reasons than the ones that do. So, like, for example, PNY. PNY only sells NVIDIA graphics cards. They have only ever sold NVIDIA graphics cards. So they are the most loyal. So they are the premier partner. I mean, they've also had the longest partnership with NVIDIA. So that's the other reason. That might be the real reason. The others, like Asus sells Radeon and GeForce. So they're going to be limited in how far up the totem pole they can get in terms of the partner status, because they're selling the enemy's stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, are you really my best ally if you're actually selling my enemy's stuff? You know, like how would you feel if you were NVIDIA and your friend Asus says they're supporting you, but at the same time they're also supporting your enemy or your competitor? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does that look? You got to think about that, because it's a perception. So, and it's the same way with AMD. So AMD has their exclusive higher tier partners that only sell Radeon, and they do not sell GeForce. Sapphire is an example of this. Power Color is another example. XFX, the turncoat, is another example. XFX, once upon a time, was a GeForce exclusive partner. But then somehow they started selling Radeon, and I guess NVIDIA, either they did it without notifying NVIDIA or something like that, and NVIDIA got mad at them, so they're like, no, you can't sell GeForce anymore. So XFX basically lost their ability to sell GeForce, and they became Radeon exclusive at that point forward. So yeah, that was a long time ago. That was like 2009 or 2008. It was like way back. We're talking PS3, Xbox 360 era. So, anyway, so PNY is the good one for NVIDIA, and it's like. So, like, PNY is good. PNY equals NVIDIA. Sapphire equals Radeon. Or I guess PNY equals GeForce. Sapphire equals Radeon. I mean, these are kind of like the two. I mean, they're not the only ones. There are other NVIDIA exclusive ones. MSI is NVIDIA exclusive now. That they literally just decided to become that way. They weren't always that way, but somehow they became GeForce exclusive. I'm trying to think of who the other one is. Galax. I mean, there's ones that are not in the US market that are NVIDIA exclusive. Power Color, XFX. These are kind of like the three big ones for the Radeon brand. PNY, MSI. Who's the other one? MSI. There's some colorful, I think. I don't know. Like there's some other ones, but like those are kind of like the main ones. Obviously, EVGA. EVGA was the third one that I would have listed. Inno3D, yeah, but those aren't really in the North America market. I guess if you're in the European market or the Asian market, Inno3D, Gainward, Galax. I don't know exactly if these are the same. No, these aren't the same ones. Like those are the Nvidia ones though. So I think these are not Radeon. I don't remember anymore. But anyway, we'll just do 3 to make it easy. And then there's ones that do both. Gigabyte does both. Asus does both. So those are not listed. So those will not show up on either of these lists. So it's PNY, MSI, Galax, and whoever. Oh yeah, what is that, like, Palat or whatever? What is that brand? Yeah, whatever that brand is. Palette, yeah. Okay, that's the other one. Palette. Those are NVIDIA via EU. Yeah, so the point I'm making is that you have like the exclusive ones, and then you have that are the GeForce ones, and then you have the exclusive ones of the Radeon ones. So typically, if I'm going to buy a GeForce or a Radeon, I would prefer, now I don't always do this, but I would prefer and I would recommend in general an exclusive brand. I don't typically, now I say that and I am someone who has the Astral, but normally, there's a reason why I have the Astral. It has to do with, it's the only one that has the monitoring for the stupid power connector that NVIDIA forces you to use. So, but in general, I would recommend an exclusive brand for GeForce, an exclusive brand for Radeon. So if you're in the market for a Radeon, I'd recommend these 3. If you're in the market for a GeForce, I'd recommend something that is GeForce exclusive. The reason why I do this is because the companies that do both, typically either they skimp on the engineering effort for the other brand, so they like copy paste the cooler for like that was made for one GPU over to another GPU, and that doesn't always translate well. Gigabyte has a really bad reputation of doing this, and Asus used to have a bad reputation of doing this. So that's why I don't typically recommend either one of those for graphics cards, regardless of whether it's GeForce or Radeon. So I would steer somebody toward a brand that only makes GeForce or only makes Radeon. I would not recommend, like a brand that does both for that reason. So, anyway. ASRock, what do you mean ASRock does both? ASRock doesn't make GeForce graphics cards. ASRock would be listed for Radeon. ASRock would have been on this list for Radeon until they started making Intel GPUs. They make Intel GPUs now, and because of that, they've been removed from the list. So, but yeah, ASRock used to be Radeon exclusive. ASRock started making Radeon GPUs in like 2017, I believe. 2017, 2018, somewhere around there was when they started doing Radeon GPUs. They've never done NVIDIA GPUs. They've recently started doing Intel GPUs. Okay, so yeah, so the prices of hardware is going to go up. It's already going up, you can see it. So let's take a look at now like product releases that happened in these time frames, so we can get an idea of what to expect. You had RTX 30 in the 2020-2021 era. RTX 30 is the 2020-2021, well, really 2021 era. So 3080, 3090, 2020. 2021. 3070 Ti. 3070. 3060 Ti. 3060. So basically all the rest. AMD 6800, 6800 XT, 6900 XT, all in 2020. 2020. PS5, Xbox, Series X and S, 2020. So you had all this stuff happen in the pandemic. Pandemic, for those that don't know, this is known as the pandemic. This is the pandemic. So we'll just box that off. The blue is the technology price hike. The white is the pandemic. Pandemic went from like 2020 all throughout 2021 into the first half or so of 2022. So throughout 2022, things globally just kind of like went back to normal in that year. I mean, at least that's what I remember. 2022, you had 2021, you also had 2021 you had 3080 Ti. That's right. 3080 Ti was in there. 3080 Ti. So you basically had like all the 30 stuff there. And then you had the rest of the AMD stuff. So you had 6700 XT, 60, I don't even know if 6700 was even in 2021. But you had like these other AMD cards. So those 6600 or whatever. So you had all of these guys in 2021. So keep this in mind. These are all pandemic hardware parts. There are also parts that were stupidly super overpriced and constantly scalped. This was the era of the John Travolta meme stream where you go watch the fix it live stream, 24/7 live streams on YouTube, where to get the notification drops on hardware drops, when they were happening, what website. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. When I say the John Travolta meme streams, those are the streams that you had these people rolling the stream, showing you the notifiers. And you had the John Travolta thing where he's walking in with the coat and he's like, you know what I'm talking about? He's like doing that thing. Those who know what I'm talking about, congratulations, you lived through that era. You know exactly what was going on. So that is like what this hardware is known for. It had a reputation of being stupidly overpriced and impossible to buy. So that was the 30 series and the RDNA 2 era. Then you went into 2022. Things started off pretty run-of-the-mill bad in 2022. There was something called 3090 Ti. The 3090 Ti had an MSRP of $2,000. $2,000. And people immediately scalped it, and it became $3,500. Like literally overnight. So, that was when NVIDIA looked at it and was like, NVIDIA was like, wow, consumers are willing to pay that much money for their GPUs. In a market like that, I wonder how much they're willing to pay in a normal market. So, but anyway, so that was 3090 Ti. And then AMD was like, hey, I got an idea. Let's launch some refresh stuff too. Let's do like NVIDIA and do refresh. So 6950 XT, 6750 XT, 6650 XT. So AMD went and they did their little like, hey, let's sell refresh stuff too. Let's do our supers. The AMD supers. They did AMD supers. All they did, instead of calling it super, they put 50s on like all of their products. RDNA 2. So you had biggest big Navi, you had the Navi, and you had little Navi. So they were doing those things. Yeah, that was 2022, guys. This is all like pre-Zen 4. And this was like the tail end of the pandemic era. was when these things showed up. So then you had the second half of 2022. And that was where all the crazy started going back to normal, when you had stuff like this launch. RTX 4090, $1,599, $1,599, $400 less than RTX 3090, but it was faster than a 3090 Ti, and it used less power. So 4090 launched. Also 4080 launched, and then 4080 fake was going to launch, but they disliked it so badly that the public was so mad about the fake 4080, the 4080 12 gig, they unlaunched it. They literally unlaunched it. So it didn't launch. So they had 4080 and 4090. And then AMD launched 7900 XT, 7900, 7900 XTX, and 7900 XT. So you had all these things in the second half of 2022. Just put them right here. Okay. Then in 2023, the rest of the stuff shows up. So you have like your 4070 Ti, your 4070, your 4060 Ti, your 4060, your 7800 XT, your 7700 XT, your 70. In fact, the 7600 launched before the other ones for some weird reason. This is the year of Starfield. This was the year of a huge amount of games. Lords of the Fallen, Immortals of Avium. You had Unreal Engine 5 games started showing up in the second half of 2023. You had Immortals of Avium. First of all, Fortnite got a UE5 port version build of it. But that wasn't originally like meant to be a UE5 game. So then you started having games that were truly Unreal Engine 5. Those games, Immortals of Avium, there was another game that I forget, and Lords of the Fallen. You also had games like Starfield, Armored Core 6, Lies of P, just like so many games. So many. Hogwarts Legacy, Forspoken, tons of games. 2023 was the year of gaming. It was the year of gaming. How could I forget this? Baldur's Gate 3 finally moved from early access to public release. The year of gaming, 2023. You know why? Starfield. That's why. And Baldur's Gate 3. Armored Core 6. Lies of P. Lords of the Fallen. Immortals of Avium. Forspoken, Hogwarts Legacy. All the good stuff. 2023. The year of gaming. You heard it here first. Even though it's been like 2 years. Anyway. But you can see all the sort of graphics cards that launched. Brand new graphics cards for the gamers. These are the gamers' graphics cards. These are what the gamers aspire to have in their computer. So they can play their League of Legends or their Counter-Strike 2 or their arbitrary esports title that they're just average at in reality. PUBG, whatever. Like World of Warcraft at 4K, maxed out, whatever. Like a 20-year-old game or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the gamers' graphics cards. And NVIDIA and AMD know this to be true. Deep within their hearts, they know this is the way of the gamer. A gamer doesn't need more than 4070 Ti levels of performance or the 7800 XT levels of performance. This is the way of the gamer. So what this means is we've established a pattern here. You have the year of the enthusiast, followed by the year of the gamer. You have enthusiast class NVIDIA, enthusiast class AMD in 1 year, usually toward the end of the year. And then you have the gamer stuff. What gamers actually spend money on when they buy their pre-builds. Okay, minus this guy. But you get what I'm saying. The gamer graphics cards. These are for the gamers. Then you have you have this enthusiast stuff. Then you have the gamers. Then it's time for 2024. That brings us to last year. Last year was an interesting year. Last year was a year where, first of all, look at this price trend. Prices are way down. We're down in the valley in terms of the price point. So that means 2024, if you're someone who holds onto your computer for like 5 years, 7 years, at least 3 years, now is a good 2024, literally last year, was a good time to buy because the prices are going to be at an all-time low. So think about that. 2024, last year, what did we get? Last year is supposed to be the enthusiast year. The enthusiast year. This means it is supposed to be the successor year to whatever launched in 2022. Remember what I said at the beginning of the stream. 24 months, 2 years, 24 months, 24 months, 24 months, 24, like that. For the gamers, 24 months, 24 months, 24 months. So let's see. But what we all know what happened. There was no enthusiast stuff last year, at least for GPUs. So what do they do? Super. They did super. You got supers last year. You got supers. And what'd you get from AMD? Do we even get anything? Oh, we got one card from AMD. Yeah. 7600 XT. So you got a bunch of supers and you got like one random AMD gamer 1080p graphics card. Oh, we haven't even talked about Intel, man. I don't even know if we want to talk about Intel. We want to add Intel. Intel's just going to confuse people even more. We can go ahead and add Intel. But anyway, like, okay. But what's cool is like, oh, last year, PS5 Pro, mid-generation. Here we go. Mid-generation. All right, so, but last year, realistically, prices were at an all-time high 1 year ago. So the best time to do a platform upgrade was literally last year. Literally the Black Friday of 2024 was the time. It was the time. So, what happened this year? Uh-oh. There's a lot of things from this year. Uh-oh. There's a lot of them. We're not even going to mention this guy. All right. And you had this. You had this. You had this. And you had that. So, this year, you had the gamers and NVIDIA's enthusiast stuff. So there is one person missing. There's one classification of product missing. There's one who missed completely. There's one who missed. Someone missed. So we look at the trend. Everything has followed except for one thing. Two things are special. The NVIDIA enthusiasts are not where they were supposed to. They're supposed to be here. They're supposed to be Q4 of last year. Was supposed to be 5090, 5080. The enthusiast NVIDIA. They launched this year alongside the gamers stuff. AMD launched their gamer products, which are in line with their previous gamer products. Gamer products from AMD. Gamer 21, Gamer 23, Gamer 25. These are the AMD gamer years. So you want to do the logical mapping, the mapping of products 6700 XT to 70, or I guess no. Well, it gets kind of confusing actually now that I think about it. Well, no, let's not go there. Let's not go there because AMD, per AMD, they stated that this is what they are trying to achieve. This is what they're trying to do. But realistically, this is not actually what happened. This is like AMD's ideal, but this is actually not the reality. Like, that's not the reality. The reality is this. This is reality. But the problem is if you look at it from AMD's ideal, it looks okay. Going from like this to this. But going from this to this isn't that impressive. And when you look at it from the reality, going from this to this is not that impressive. Going from this to this is okay. So AMD's gamer stuff hasn't really scaled in an insane leap, if that makes sense. Which indicates to me that AMD has been having to play catch up with NVIDIA from a technology feature standpoint. So there's a lot of effort in the last 2 generations or so of AMD that have been put into things like figuring out how are we going to do frame gen, how are we going to do machine learning upscaling, how are we going to do multi-frame gen. So these are the sort of things that AMD has had to do to play catch up with NVIDIA. So that's the reason why the reality versus the ideal of what AMD's product generational leaps look like are, as far as I'm concerned, only the leap from the 9070 or to the 9070 XT is pretty noticeable. A 6700 XT going to a 7700 XT, I mean, we can look that up real quick to see what those numbers look like. Like if we just go here real quick, let me bring this up. 60 or 70, yeah, 6700 XT. So we go to the AMD, and then we want to look at what's the performance leap here. 6700 XT to 7700 XT is about 30% uplift. Okay, so we're going to go back to Paint. We're going to use these numbers then. So this is about 30% uplift. So what is the uplift going from the other one? So from the, where is it? 7700 XT going to 9070. But there's a big problem with these statements, and we're going to mention that in a second. Because remember, this is AMD's ideal, but it's not reality. We're going to show the reality numbers too. But the, where is that GPU? So 60%. Oh, that's good. So this one, this is a 60% leap. That is significant. That's why it's called AMD's Ideal. So to go from RDNA 2 to RDNA 3 is a 30% uplift for the gamers. To go from RDNA 3 to RDNA 4, 60% uplift in AMD's Ideal scenario. Now let's look at reality. And the reason why I'm talking about reality is because the one thing that I have not mentioned here is the price difference. So the 6700 XT has an MSRP of $479. So $479. I believe the 7700 XT, let me check real quick. I think it's the same price. The MSRP was $449. $449. This is $449. So this is actually less, slightly less, but it's still kind of within that same price point. Okay. The price of this is $599. Let me stay consistent here. $599, $600 for the 9070 XT. So you can see this is $150 more than this. So this is actually not the correct comparison if you're looking at it from a price standpoint. So, but this is. So basically what I'm showing you guys is for a price to price, for a generational leap from one generation to the next, staying within the same price point. So that $450 range to $500 range, you're getting a 30% generational uplift going from RDNA 2 to RDNA 3. Now, going from RDNA 3, we'd have to go look at like the 9070 for a more proper comparison. So actually, let's actually do that. Let's convert this now. So what we can do here is we can say, so we're going to do this one in a second. I want to leave that price here. We're going to drop this to the 9070, so not the non-XT, and we're going to look at what that performance leap is, which is still a pretty good one. So now we're looking at the regular 9070. So the regular 9070 is still about 45% faster. So that's still pretty good. So I can't type today. 45%. And the price of this card was the same price, $440. This is the correct comparison. Okay, so this is the correct comparison. So okay, so it's not that bad. So to go from RDNA 2 to RDNA 3, 30% uplift. To go from RDNA 3 to RDNA 4, 45% uplift. So that is quite a bit better. This is a generational leap. This is a true generational leap. So, generational leap objectively is defined by 40% or better. So this is a true generational leap. This was not a true generational leap. So, yeah. So RDNA 4 is quite good. And RDNA 4 closes the gap on the feature parity with NVIDIA in terms of the upscaler capability. So now let's look at this one. So this guy, I remember him, he was $649. This one, hold on, 6800 XT. 649. And then I want to look at, where's 7800 XT? Oh, not very good. This is like 5% faster. And what was the price of this thing? Oh, 500. So I'm not doing an apples to apples comparison. I need to change this up. So this is 499. Oh, I need to find the 6800, not the 6800 XT. Yeah, okay, so this guy is $579. So to get rid of the XT, and then now the uplift is going to look different. That's a little bit better. It's a little bit better, but these prices are kind of weird. So technically, I don't even know. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. There's a $100 difference here. That's really weird. Anyway, this is kind of a tough one to make a comparison on, but it's still like 25 to 30. This is kind of similar, but the prices are kind of weird. But remember, pandemic pricing was kind of dumb anyway. So let me see. What is the uplift from 7800 XT to 9070 XT? Okay, so like 40%. Okay. So let's remove this ideal and reality nonsense, because now we're comparing more like actual price stuff. Okay. So if you look, now the RDNA 2 pricing is kind of weird compared to RDNA 3 and RDNA 4, but again, like this is a $100 difference here. So I'm trying to figure out like what is the actual, like what is the correct card to be making a comparison here? Because some people might say, oh, well, you should use the GRE. I don't like to use the GRE to compare to this, because the GRE was not a card that was meant to be sold globally. It was supposed to be like a Chinese exclusive card. Then they opened it up to the global market for a while, and it was not available everywhere. So I don't really like that card for these sort of comparisons. Whereas the 7800 XT was available everywhere from the start. So we're going to just run with this. So yeah, the price doesn't make any sense though, because this is like 600 versus 500. So there's like a $100 difference there. But the point still stands. These are the gamer cards. These are gamer cards. They're not enthusiast cards. They're not like flagship cards. They were never meant to be flagship cards. These are meant for the gamers. They're priced appropriately for gamers. You're basically buying a gaming console. You're basically spending game console money on the graphics component of your PC that enables your PC to be able to run games. That's the way I've always looked at graphics cards. You're buying a console without the console. Yes, it's not a full system because you still need the rest of the entire computer, but you could have a random potato, throw one of these in it, and now all of a sudden you can at least play games. For the most part, you know, that doesn't, I mean, you might have terrible CPU bottleneck problems, but in general, $500, $600, anywhere from like that $400 to $600 range is typically what I call the gamer price range. Most gamers have come to terms to accept that they have to spend anywhere from $400 to $600 to get a decent gaming experience on PC when it comes to buying a graphics card. This is the reality. Nvidia knows this. AMD knows this. This is why these are considered gamer graphics cards. They have appropriate amounts, at least when you look at AMD's offerings, they have always had the proper amount of VRAM for the intended use case, in this case gaming, in the year that the product was put on the market. So in 2021, 12 gigabytes on a 6700 XT was a good amount of VRAM. Same deal with these. And then 16 gigabytes on a 6800 in 2020 was very good. 16 gigabytes on this, very good. 16 gigabytes on this, still very good. Very competitive, priced properly. It's not overly expensive. Gamers can still save up and achieve these price points. These are achievable targets. These are not outrageously out of place. Like, it's not like you're asking a random gamer who doesn't even have a proper job Like we're talking, like people who are college students or whatever, or maybe even high school students, and they might save up over the summer working a summer job or something to be able to build a gaming PC. That is a normal, real world example of who these graphics cards are meant for. They're targeting the gamer, the PC gamer market. The type of games that these people play are either esports or AAA single player games, could be multiplayer games like Battlefield 6, for example. But that is where these graphics cards really shine at 1080p or 1440p. They are not meant for 4K. This is exactly how these products are positioned, and this is who they are meant for. So I think when it comes to product segmentation, AMD does a slightly better job than Nvidia, because Nvidia has gotten a little bit more price creep over the last 5 years. And they've been able to get away with this because they're selling you on what they call features. And really the only feature that they have right now that the competition lacks is the controversial multi-frame gen feature, which most people don't even really use. I would only use frame gen, like the basic frame gen on RTX 50 series card. I don't see myself using 4x frame gen or 2x frame gen for all the increased latency. So yeah, that's like the one thing that AMD doesn't have. But I mean, in terms of price competitiveness, I really think AMD is a better value right now for the average gamer. And they're the only ones you can actually buy at under MSRP right now too. So, and that kind of helps. So, where does that leave next year? So, next year is supposed to be the enthusiast year. The enthusiast year. Because we had enthusiasts. But we all know NVIDIA, well, right now we all know the memory problem is a big problem. AI is a big problem for consumers that want these type of GPUs. So, next year, there's really going to be no new NVIDIA, like new next-gen NVIDIA. So if you're waiting for NVIDIA 60 series, you're going to be waiting until 2027. What we will see from NVIDIA, we will most likely see 5080 Super, 5070 Ti Super, 5070 Super. These cards will come next year. Sometime next year they will show up. But then the real deal, the more interesting thing that will probably happen next year will be next gen, unless the roadmap changes because of all the VRAM, whatever's going on. I don't know what memory they're going to use. Next gen Radeon is expected to debut at the very end of next year. So literally a year from now is the expectation for the AMD Radeon. The Radeon. Faster than a 5090 is the expectation here. So that is supposed to be next year. 1 year from now. Training in the hyperbolic time chamber. So I don't know if that's actually going to show up next year, because we know that there's no 60 series next year. Like, we know there's no 60 series next year. That much we know. But the Radeon stuff is the huge wild card, because it has been a long time since the AMD Enthusiast card. It will be 4 years. 4 years 4 years between the Radeon enthusiast flagship product. That's a very long time. This is very similar to what happened last time. The long wait from the Vega 64 all the way until the 6800 and the 6900 XT. That was in excess of 3 years. That was about 3.5 years. Vega 64 and Vega 56 were the last flagship. They were the final flagship series, the enthusiast cards of the GCN architecture. And when did they launch? Summer 2017. 2017. This was the last true enthusiast of the GCN era. And then it was not until the very end of 2020, during the time of the PS5 and Xbox launch, was 6800 XT. 6800 XT and 6800 launched November of 2020. So almost nearly 3.5 years after the Vega 64 and Vega 56. And then the 6900 XT was December of 2020, the very end of that year of the pandemic. So that's a long wait. 3.5 years of waiting between AMD flagships. So you can see AMD requires, for whatever reason, a longer window to create these massive generational enthusiast class products. So here we are. It has now been 3 years. 3 years since the launch of the 7900 XTX. So the expectation is sometime between now and the very end of next year, there should be a next generation Radeon that is faster than a 5090. And one thing I want to do here, now that I just realized the potential of the Vega, I need to go back and look at this. So the Vega to the 6800 XT. Very interesting stuff here. So the generational leap, Vega 64 to 6800 XT. The generational leap, 120% faster. 120% faster. Put that into perspective for a second. 3.5 years of waiting, 120% faster. Going from so somebody who had a Vega 64 like me, I had Vega 64 since 2017. But I didn't get this. I didn't get that. Because the scalpers beat me to it. So I never got a chance to get it. But I did manage to get the 6900 XT during that launch week. So if you do, now this is not considered apples to apples. So maybe we should do this one. Radeon 7 to 6900 XT. So let's do that one. So let me find, where is Radeon 7? Radeon 7 to 6900 XT. 95% faster. Is that right? Wait, did I do that correctly? Yeah. 95% faster going from Radeon 7. Radeon 7, though, I don't like that one because no one really had one of those. That was a crypto card. or a productivity card. So if we do the math here, so we go back to that Vega, what is that, Vega? So Vega to 6900 XT. I don't like this comparison though, but this gives me some perspective. Okay, so that's like 130. Wow, 135% faster. Man. So think of the performance uplift for somebody who went from Vega to AMD's RDNA 2 flagship. Because Vega 64 was the flagship. 6900 XT was the new flagship. So you're talking 135%. That's a 3.5 year waiting. 3.5 year waiting. So, but now granted, this is like a completely different architecture. But what we know is that AMD's been working on a brand new architecture. So, the next generation Radeon the fastest AMD card that comes out between now and the beginning of 2027 should be faster than 5090. Because if we look at the 7900 XTX, the 7900 XTX today, the RTX 5090. So let's look at it. Here we go. The 7900 XTX to 5090 is about 70% uplift. 70% uplift. If you went from a flagship AMD card, the fastest AMD card today, going to a 5090, that gets you 70%. So that is a generational uplift if you go from the $1,000 7900 XTX to the $2,000 5090. So that's why, I mean, it's not apples to apples comparison, but technically this is also kind of a weird comparison if you're going by price, because Vega 64 was like a $600 card or so, somewhere around there. And this is a $1,000 MSRP. That's why I really like this comparison, that 120% uplift for a true generational change, and you're still in the same price point. So, yeah, so that next gen Radeon card, I mean, it pretty much better be faster than 5090. Otherwise, it'll be very embarrassing if it's not, because you look at like how long you give AMD, like 3.5 years, and this is the performance uplift. So you give them 4 years, they should get a similar performance uplift. So, and you can do the math. You can look at Nvidia's older cards. You're gonna see similar uplifts. So next year is supposed to be the year of the Radeon, whether people even know it or they're even aware of it or not. I mean, it's AMD's year to make things happen for their GPU. They can make a big splash with the GPU stuff. I mean, the market is literally wide open. 2026, there's just going to be some super NVIDIA cards in the summer, and that's pretty much it. So, but for the people who are waiting for 60 series, so you got 60, 90, 60, 80, 60, 70 Ti, 60, 70, 60, 60 Ti, 60, 60. These cards are coming sometime in 2027. 2027. If you want to know exactly when, Q2, May and June, April, May, June. May will be 50 or 60, 90. June will be 60, 80. And then the rest of these guys will show up, like in the summer. So Q2 of 2027. So if you're waiting for that 60, 90, you're going to be waiting for a long time. Wait, like more than a year. You're waiting like a year and a half. So between now and then, AMD has that window, because AMD has not gotten like a super high-end card out, and it does seem like it takes AMD 3 to 4 years to truly get that big upgrade that they need. So if they could do 100% plus last time, if you go from like the old stuff. Now, I need to think about this though. I need to look at, well, see, the other thing is 6800 XT. We can look at 6900 XT to 7900 XTX. That performance leap is not going to be that impressive, but again, it's a 2-year window. That's a 2-year window. We're talking about a 4-year window here. Double the amount of time. So you're talking about skipping an entire generation and going all the way up. So it's like if we were to skip the RDNA 2 and we were to look at Vega 64 compared to 7900 XTX, hypothetically, I mean not hypothetically, like realistically, what that number actually looks like in terms of performance uplift, like if you skipped that whole RDNA 2 and you went from Vega all the way to 7900 XTX, oh my goodness, the uplift. So, Vega 64 to 7900 XTX, is that real? Is that, whoa. 240% uplift. 240% faster. If someone was on a Vega 64 and they waited all the way to go to a 7900 XTX, so if they bought one of these like 3 years ago and they had Vega since 2017, they're getting a 240% uplift in performance going from AMD's GCN flagship, the last GCN flagship, all the way to RDNA 3. 240% uplift. So that is significant. That's the difference between playing at 1080p versus like 4K gaming. Like that is the kind of uplift that's required to pull that off. So and they're basically skipping a generation here when you think about it, because it's like so many years in the pipeline. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next year. If anything, AMD's Radeon stuff is the biggest mystery right now. I think like no one really knows too much about like what it's gonna be, what they're doing. Like, is it a brand new architecture? Is it a hybrid? Is it compute oriented for AI? You know, like what are they actually doing? I don't know. That's the interesting one though. So, that's pretty much it. You'll have the rest of the stack the following year. So, like, gamer AMD or RDNA 5 or whatever they call it, that's 2027. We're talking enthusiast Radeon. Enthusiast Radeon is a year from now. Suppose sometime around a year from now, I expect it. Because that's 4 years. 4 years. 48 months. Not 24 months, 48 months of waiting. Generation to generation. So that is a very long time. So we should expect massive performance uplifts because it's been 48 months. If it goes all the way to December of next year. So the gamer though, the Radeon gamer is 2027. So that's like your like 9070 replacement, your that kind of stuff. So that's going to be in line with Nvidia's releases throughout that year. And then PS6 in November. November of 2027 is PS6. So just saying, I'm calling it right now. So because that hits that 7-year target. Remember what I said, guys? 357. That's that 7-year. Sony always does the 7-year. 10-year software support, 7-year hardware. I've been doing that since the PS3. And there's no reason for them to deviate from this. Okay, so that pretty much leaves that. I guess if we want to keep going with this, the 7090 The 7080. The 7070 Ti. The 70... Well, actually, no. No. I don't know. It's kind of hard to predict exactly when. These guys are 2029. I know that. But the others, though, what I don't know is if the gamer GeForce for 70 series will be 2030 or 2029. That I don't know. But we can say that gamer GeForce and gamer Radeon is sometime in 2029, 2030, somewhere in there. Xbox, I have no idea. I don't know. Microsoft's strategy right now is like all over the place. It's hard for me to interpret like what Microsoft is doing. They're basically marketing Xbox everywhere. So I know they are making a new Xbox. I don't know when it's going to show up. So I have no idea. It could be next year. I don't know. They could try to get that 1 year leap like they did with 360 back in the day. But that's pretty much it for what to expect. You'll have the 7080, 7090. If you want an RTX 7090 for like 10 grand or whatever, you gotta wait till 2029. You're gonna have to wait till the very end of the decade. And then we've almost come full circle. We've almost completed the whole decade in terms of computer hardware. And it's like, it's even harder for me to predict like AMD's stuff that comes after next gen Radeon, because it's like, I don't even know like what they're doing, because like 4 years, I guess 2030, I don't know. Oh, but if you're waiting for DRAM, I guess the final point that I'll make here at the end of the stream, if you're waiting for DRAM will probably come back down in 2028. So by the time DRAM is back to the prices it was 2 months ago, the 6090 will already be out. The gamer Radeon stuff will be out. You know, like it'll be in that time frame probably. So, yeah. Well, okay, I don't know about $10,000, but it'll probably be like 2,500, 3,000, somewhere around there. I mean, that isn't even outrageous. I mean, there's 5090s out there today. I'm looking at the Astral. That thing's like 3,300 or whatever. So yeah, I mean, and that's just a 5090. That isn't even a 7090. So 7070 Ti Super is 2030. That's 2030. So that's over here. That's at the end of the line, man. DDR6 is actually already a thing, but it's not. I don't know. Like, it's. DDR6 is probably going to be here. Probably there. It'll be either 2020. It'll be at the end of 2027, but no one's gonna buy it at the end of 2027 because it'll be stupidly expensive, like DDR5 was at the end of 2021. So it'll launch sometime in 2027, and the actual market availability of platforms that will use it will probably be 2028 and beyond. So if you're waiting for the DDR6. That's going to be like, realistically, DDR6 is going to be like 2028 and beyond. So yeah, all this stuff will be in that DDR6 era. I mean, that's the latest that I understand. But no one's going to be buying it in 2027. I mean, it's going to be stupidly expensive. Zen 7 is definitely not going to be on AM5. Yeah, there's no way. There's no way. No way. I'm actually going to be slightly surprised if Zen 6 is on AM5. Let me put it this way. If AMD puts Zen 6 on a new socket or if they like introduce a new socket and they backport a version of Zen 6 to AM5 for all the people that think AMD needs to stay on the same socket for whatever reason, that's fine. But if they do a full new socket, I don't care. Like, I don't have a problem with that. Intel's going to be on a new socket, I can tell you that. Intel's going to be on LGA 1954 or something. So Intel's going to a new socket. AMD, I guess, could go to a new socket. I mean, if they do, I don't care. It's fine because like it's like already way beyond the light. Like, look at when did AM5 come out? 2022. 2022 was AM5. We are going into 2026. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. 5 years of AM5. So if they put Zen 6 on AM5, that means you're going to have 7 years of the same socket because that's going to go another 2 years. So you're going to do 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So basically like 6 to 7 years, 6 years on one socket. That's a lot. So I don't see why they would need to do that. But yeah, definitely Zen 7 is not on AM5 at all. So Zen 6, speaking of CPUs, now we didn't talk about CPUs on this stream, but we have discussed CPU roadmaps in the past. CPUs, Zen 6 is supposed to be next year. It's supposed to be next year. It should, because 24 months. Zen 5 was last year. Zen 4 was 2022. Zen 3 was 2020. So like I said, 24 months, guys. It's every 24 months. So I expect Zen 6 next year. I don't know what they're going to do. Like, I don't know if it's going to be like Q3 or Q4. It's probably going to be one of those two. But it should be sometime next year. If it's going to be AM5, then okay, it's AM5. But the problem is what I want to see from AMD, I want to see USB 4 version 2, because that's basically Thunderbolt 5. I want to see QDIMM support. On the mobile space, I want to see Cam2 support. So there's a lot of stuff that I expect AMD to have going into Zen 6. And I don't know if they're going to have if they stay on AM5, how are they going to do USB 4 version 2? They're not going to have that. Like, their CPU could support it, but the existing motherboards don't have support. You know what I mean? So unless there's a way to like buy an ASM add-in card and add it to the motherboards, and none of the motherboards have headers, so they're gonna have to introduce a new chipset. Like, they're gonna have they desperately need a new chipset if they want to deliver all these things like QDIMM, USB 4 version 2, all the things that I expect to see with the next generation of Ryzen CPUs. I know they'll have it on mobile, but mobile's not until 2027 for AMD. So I don't know. Maybe they don't have that stuff on desktop. If they don't have that stuff on desktop, they're going to be in big trouble, though, competing with Intel. That's the reason why I feel like all these people that are worried about Intel, they need to stop worrying about Intel. Intel is not going to have any problems at all with their next generation of CPUs, at least from a platform standpoint, because Intel already has the platform advantage over AMD right now, especially in mobile. But AMD is the one that, if anyone needs to update the platform, AMD is the one that needs to update the platform, not Intel. Intel already has all the latest and greatest. So AMD desperately needs a newer chipset. If they're going to maintain socket compatibility, they need to introduce a new chipset that has all the stuff. It needs to have the Thunderbolt 5 controller on there, like they did with Zen 4's launch, optional or whatever. Like, they gotta have these things if they truly want to compete with Intel from a functionality standpoint. So that's what I expect to see. All right, so what are people saying? They want to sell cheaper SKUs to the mainstream. X3D because what are we talking about? I'm talking about the platform for the new stuff, guys. Including QDIMM. X970E. Yeah, they need some new stuff. Like Mike is agreeing with me because Mike understands, like from where I'm coming from, I'm looking at it from functionality, platform, long-term viability. I don't care if they're like 10%, 15% faster in gaming. The gamers care, and the market will obviously perceive AMD as superior because they're the fastest in gaming. So that is definitely high on their priority list. But I'm talking in general, like if they want to do a full apples to apples comparison to Intel, AMD's the one that is behind, guys. Intel is ahead today in laptop feature. Well, okay, they're a little bit. They got Cam 2. They got Cam 2 and they got Thunderbolt 5. Those are the two things. Those are the two things that AMD needs to get right with the next generation. The bar is so low. The bar is set so low. All AMD has to do, USB 4 version 2, aka Thunderbolt 5 equivalent, and QDIMM, which is aka Cam 2 on desktop in the regular UDIMM config. They got to get those things right. Like, I need to see QDIMM for RAM, and I need to see Thunderbolt 5. I know I'm saying Thunderbolt 5, but you guys know what I'm talking about. I mean USB 4 version 2. They got to have that as an option. They got to have that as an option. And if some random Chinese company made some Strix Halo thing, I forgot which brand it was, some Chinese mini PC has Strix Halo in it with Thunderbolt 5. Literally USB 4 version 2. 80 gigabit USB-C. I don't know how they did it, but that implies that there is a controller out there available to provide USB version 2. So I expect, yeah, minis for them. Yes, thank you. I expect there to be new motherboards accompanying new flagship motherboards. We're talking Crosshair X970E, Crosshair Hero, or Crosshair Extreme, something out there, godlike, whatever, that has the full fat USB 4 80 gigabit on the back. I want to see that. They gotta have that. If they're gonna, I don't care if they stay with AM5. If they can achieve all these things and stay on AM5, more power to them. But they better have these features, because I would rather have them change sockets and introduce these new features than to stay on the same socket and forego those features. Because I can tell you right now that in the mobile space, there's so many people out there that are just going to straight up buy Intel because, oh, they can get an Intel laptop that has Thunderbolt 5. You know, they get the 80 gigabit USB. They're not going to buy the AMD one because it doesn't have 80 gigabit USB-C. So there's already people out there that have that, even though the AMD one is cheaper, better, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? So maybe this means less in the desktop world compared to mobile space. But same thing with QDIMM. The same argument with QDIMM. There's so many people like, man, why can't I get an AMD laptop with Cam 2? It's because AMD doesn't support QDIMM, my guy. You gotta have QDIMM support if you want to do Cam 2. Cam 2 is literally clock redrive. But apparently people don't know that. So, they gotta get those two things. It's like a check mark. It's like a system requirements list. You gotta have QDIMM on Zen 6. You gotta have USB 4 version 2 as an option. They better have these two things, or I can tell you right now, there's going to be some reviewers out there that are just going to straight up say Intel's better because Intel's got more features. You know, it's the same stupid argument when it comes to GeForce versus Radeon. It's like, oh, GeForce has multi-frame gen, it has more features. It's better because it has more features. You know, it's the same sort of argument, man. So AMD is going to fall into that trap if they cannot get those two things in their next generation platform. So I'm calling it right now. If they do it, great. If they don't do it, you guys will see what the reviewers say. I mean, it might still be the fastest in gaming. It might still be the fastest in gaming with X3D or whatever. But if someone's going to be like, oh, I'm thinking, which one should I get for productivity? You don't want to open that can of worms. You want to have all those features checked off. If you're a product manager, you don't want your competition to have any sort of talking points that you don't have a good answer to because you didn't implement it in your product. You know what I'm saying? That's not a good spot to be in when you cannot handle objection handling because you straight up didn't engineer the feature when the other guy did. So, because I get that question all the time, man. Why isn't there any AMD laptop with Cam 2? Like, why is Cam 2 Intel only? Everyone's trying to sabotage AMD. They're not trying to sabotage AMD. It's because AMD didn't engineer it. They didn't engineer for it in their design. Their CPU architecture doesn't support it. If you don't believe me, go listen to the CEO and founder of Framework, because he explains this in like 2 or 3 videos. He explains this to Linus, and he explains this to one of the guys that does like laptop stuff. I forgot which channel, but literally they did not engineer for it. So that's the reason why. That's the reason why you can't use CUDIMs. You can't use the clock. You can use CUDIM with AM5 today in bypass mode because it doesn't actually do anything. So there's no point in using it. X870E Godlike or Extreme. Well, that depends on if you want that X4 at the bottom. You don't have an X4 on the bottom for the Extreme. Did Jared's Tech interview the guy from Framework? I don't think he did. I think it's someone else. I'm talking about Nirav. Nirav, the CEO of Framework. He literally explained to Linus. I know for a fact he spilled the beans on no CUDIM from AMD or no Cam 2 from AMD. They tried to get it to work. He explained that, actually. I like that he explained that because he gave the public more information than I think AMD wanted him to give them. But he said it. He literally spilled the beans, guys. Nirav said to Linus, and then we're talking Linus Tech Tips here. He told Linus straight up, in the beginning, Framework wanted Cam 2 on Strix Point. Or actually on Strix Halo? It didn't matter. It was either Strix Point or it doesn't matter. I remember it was Strix Halo because they were talking about the Framework desktop. Linus asked Nirav, why is it soldered RAM? Why is it soldered RAM when your whole company is all about upgradability? And he explained that that's a great question. We wanted it to be socketable. AMD even sent an engineer. They even assigned a network, not a network, network. What is the word? Like an architect. They assigned a engineer architect to try to get Cam 2 working with Strix Halo. And they got it working, but it wasn't giving them the memory bandwidth that they needed. Like he said something like they were only getting like half the memory bandwidth. So the memory bandwidth was cut in half when they used Cam 2 on the interface. And if I had to guess, it has something to do with the sea of wires that Strix Halo is using, because it's individually routed through the interposer. We did a whole Tech Thursdays episode about this topic, but they couldn't get it to work optimally, so they figured you just got to go with soldered, because Otherwise, you're just not going to get the full benefit of the Strix Halo memory bandwidth. So they went with the soldered for that reason. So that's, I mean, that's specific to Strix Halo. So I don't know if that also applies to their other laptop chips like the Strix Point, the Kraken Point, all those other ones, Hawk Point. It probably does. So the point that I'm making though still stands. Like AMD needs to get QDIMM, and I know they know this, that they need to do this. I'm pretty sure they've worked on it. So I expect Zen 6 to have QDIMM support, Cam 2 support on mobile, and some upgrade path to allow for USB 4 version 2.0, aka Thunderbolt 5, aka 80 gigabit USB-C. So if they don't have those things, they're going to have problems when it comes to comparing to Intel, because Intel already has both of those things. Intel has had both of those. Well, Intel has had QDIMM since Meteor Lake. Not even just Arrow Lake. Meteor Lake has had support for this stuff. So Intel is like technically 2 generations ahead of AMD at this point when it comes to memory standards for like clock redriver stuff. So yeah, AMD really needs that clock redrive things, but I'm pretty sure they will have it. Let's put it this way. I'd be very surprised if they don't have it. So anyway, if Intel can get QDIMM working on a standard UDIMM, AMD can get it to work too. But it might require a new motherboard, guys. It might not work on the old motherboards, because the old motherboards use bypass mode. And for the exact same reason, it doesn't work on Intel's Raptor Lake. So like a 14900K cannot work with QDIMM. It cannot work with QDIMMs. Same thing with AMD. AMD cannot work with QDIMM today. So I expect Zen 6 to at least reach feature parity with Arrow Lake next generation. 2 memory controllers. I mean, what does that mean exactly? That either means that it's going to be quad channel like Threadripper, or it's going to be backwards compatible or forwards compatible, meaning it can do DDR5 and DDR6 if it has 2. Because remember, Intel had that whole thing. Intel had DDR4 support on Alder Lake and Raptor Lake, while also having forwards compatibility with DDR5. So maybe what that means is AMD is going to have DDR5 and DDR6 support, kind of like what Intel did a few years ago, DDR4 and DDR5 support. Or it means something different. It could be like quad channel memory or something. Who knows? I don't know. But usually when someone says, oh, they got 2 memory controllers, that usually means that they're talking like more than 2 channel memory, or they're talking about forwards compatibility. Asus engineer made modified DIMMs. Could take. I don't know when that was, but that was probably a very long time ago. Well, all right, guys, that pretty much is it. I'm surprised I went over 3 hours. I thought this live stream was going to be 2 hours max, but apparently I had enough stuff to talk about. So we did the whole timeline thing for GPUs, so you guys can clearly see the projected window for graphics cards then and now and the future. So you can see the timeline. Everything is here. The biggest wild card at this point is Radeon. No one knows what Radeon has planned for their enthusiast class. NVIDIA, we all know it's 2027. There will be some super stuff in the middle of next year, but that's basically it. There'll be 3 cards total, and they'll have more VRAM. Well, I don't know. I don't know about the middle one, but I know the 5080 Super will have like 24 gigabytes of VRAM, and I think the 5070 Super will also have more VRAM. I don't think 5070 Ti Super will change. I think it'll be the same, 16 gigabytes. Because that one, currently 5070 Ti is the best NVIDIA graphics card right now. So I don't think they need to modify that one too much. But the other two, the 5080 is one of the worst graphics cards right now. And the 5070 is also a pretty terrible graphics card right now because it's 8 gigabytes. So those are the sort of things that I expect to see from NVIDIA next year. So very predictable stuff. Nothing crazy there. And then for AMD, though, man, AMD should have the big upgrade. We're talking like the 90% uplift or better with the next gen Radeon. So that's probably a year from now, or Q1 of 2027, or somewhere around there. But it should come out before the 60 series at the latest. So anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, do get subscribed. Sometimes I do unannounced live streams that are more gaming focused on the weekend. So if you want to tune in to those, you want to ask tech questions during those live streams, be sure to tune in, hit the bell icon to get notified when I go live. Otherwise, I will catch you guys next time, next week, same place, Tech Thursdays. Until then, take care, and I will see you guys then. Thanks.